Hello. Hello, audio. Hold on.
You're on the Six Screens Telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited, and exposing the hard, cold facts about the Watchtower Society. And now, the end is near.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome in to the Six Screens of the Watchtower conference call. My name is Rick Ferrin, and I have to tell you, this is the very first program we ever had here on the Six Screens. Actually, the second program, but we've been doing this program for a number of years right now, and we have had many guests come through here. But we have a very special guest tonight, a man that I really found would be so encouraging to us all. He could give us answers we've all been looking for. His name is Fritz Springmeier, and we're looking forward to him coming on with us tonight. Fritz, I believe you're on with us. Are you there with us?
Yes, hello, Rick, and hello to all your listeners.
Well, they've been looking forward to you coming on, Fritz. They really have. This was really good that you emailed me. Well, actually text me, and you wanted to talk to me. Then we get talking. We get you on our program. I think it's really wonderful that we get a man of your caliber, a man of your research skills, to come on here with us tonight. Well, what we should start off with, Fritz, a lot of people know you, but there's a lot of people that are leaving the Watchtower right now, and they don't know you. So why don't you just give us a little rundown on who you are and what's going on in your life, okay?
Okay, thanks, Rick. So everybody out there, hello. I wrote 5 books touching on the Watchtower Society, and we can talk some more about that, but that was all done within a bigger context. So if I give you the bigger context, back in 1978, I got a calling, a divine calling to expose the corruption in Christianity and the churches, call it Christendom if you want. And I didn't start doing that full time until 1990. 1990, I started doing that full time, and I wrote a book called The Watchtower and the Masons, which has been out of print since 1995. But that book resulted in dozens of Jehovah's Witnesses leaving the Watchtower Society. And so what allowed me to write that book? Well, I had associated with the Jehovah's Witnesses, not because I was going to join. In fact, that's what got me into trouble, because I associated with them without joining, and it got them really upset. In fact, I was told by one elder that nobody had ever been around them so long without joining them. So they disfellowshipped me, even though I wasn't a member. I didn't understand what that was until I was associated with Witness Incorporated. So fast forward a few years, my good Christian brother, Dwight Strupar, he invited me to go to a meeting that Witness Incorporated was putting on. And they were, Witness Incorporated, the head of it was Dwayne Mignani, who's written a lot of books about the Watchtower Society. He was a 4th generation Jehovah's Witness. And John Warren, who's a real, John's passed on, but he had a real heart for people, a real good pastor. And they had advertised this meeting that they could teach someone in a few minutes how to get someone out of the Watchtower Society. And my friend Dwight said, well, you need to go to this. And I'm like, Dwight, this is just typical American hype, Well, they tell you that they can teach you German in 10 minutes or something like that. And I said, I'll just go, because you're inviting me, because I love Dwight. He was such a good Christian brother. He still is a good friend and brother to me. And anyway, so I went, but my idea is I was just going to prove them wrong. I was going to stand up, and even though I wasn't a Jehovah's Witness, I'd use the same answers that they used when they were on when they were talking to Christians to barrel right over Christians. And so John and Dwayne started teaching. They started teaching how you could show how the Watchtower had lied to their people, and they had the documentation. And I stood up and I said, you know, where else can you go but the organization of the Watchtower Society? There's no other organization out there that compares. And where else are you going to go for salvation? And John looked up at me and he quoted in Acts 4, where it says, there's no other name under heaven where you can get salvation other than Jesus Christ. And it was amazing. These men had the answer. And so I turned around and started working with Witness Incorporated. I became a missionary for them to bring Jehovah's Witnesses to Christ. I was a missionary for 10 years, and I ran their print shop. And John Warren was my boss. He's a wonderful man. He's passed on. It's too bad. But both Dwayne and John had comprehensive libraries of everything that the Watchtower Society had ever put out. They had all the books, all the pamphlets, the records, everything. I mean, they had even more than that. Like in John's library, he had pictures of the pyramid, you know, with the Knights Templar, Masonic Knights Templar logo there in Allegheny, Pennsylvania, in the Masonic cemetery where Charles Taze Russell is actually buried under that pyramid, but they put a headstone over to the side to distract people. Anyway, he had pictures of that because they had gone back to that cemetery. What a gold mine. I mean, very few people had the opportunity to have a comprehensive library like John and Dwayne both had. I could see everything that they had put out since day one. It's absolutely amazing. I mean, what a blessing. For me as a researcher, that was a gold mine, and that allowed me to do what I did. In fact, I think I wasn't trying to keep tabs, but I think I probably looked at every book that the Watchtower Society has written, at least up until 1990, you know. So that allowed me to come out with this book, The Watchtower and the Mason. And so, you know, you Rick, you were generous. You said that I could have approximately an hour. You said if I took more than that, you know, I could, would give me more time. And so I was thinking with the time that I had, I especially wanted to talk about the origins of the Watchtower Society, as well as what the Watchtower and the future is going to be. So those were the two subjects that I thought I would focus in on. And I did a lot of research into Charles Taze Russell, his genealogy, what he was all about in the early things. And what is interesting, and I know you just want to really focus in on Jehovah's Witnesses, but as an aside kind of here, Charles Taze Russell and Joseph Smith Jr. really have both, you know, Charles Taze Russell started the Jehovah's Witnesses, Joseph Smith Jr. started the Mormons. They both have a lot of parallels. They were both dynamic individuals. They both came from Illuminati bloodlines. They were both Freemasons into the occult. And both had relatives that said that they were chosen before they were born for what they did. And then they both had out of control sexuality. And then my research showed that they both needed financial help. And then apparently the financial help they did get was from the Rothschilds. Now, the financial help that Charles Taze Russell got was directly from the B'nai B'rith and Masonic lodges. But there's a letter that shows that the Masonic lodges were getting the money to funnel them from these kingpins, these really rich people, which I believe were Illuminati kingpins, and so both of them apparently got finances through various channels from the Rothschilds, and so going back to Charles Taze Russell, and he starts this religion in 1881, which, by the way, the help that the Mormons got from apparently a Rothschild was in 1870, and that was when Brigham Young and the Quorum of 12 members, they had gone to England, and they were penniless when they landed, and their pockets were lined with gold when they left. That was 1876. So 1881 is not that far away. We're talking about the same time period. So in 1881, Charles Taze Russell starts the Watchtower Society. And so what I did was, as I went back and I researched, why did he come up with the things that he was using? Why did he have the Watchtower as the logo of this new religion? Why was he pushing the Golden Age? Why did he put the winged sun disk on his books? Why did he think that God lived in the Pleiades? What's this whole thing about emphasizing the Tetragrammaton and Jehovah? And so I'm going to share with the audience what these things are about. And it's, I know for a lot of people that have maybe grown up in the Watchtower Society, this is like so shocking or so far out there that it's just like, say what? You're going kind of slow, man.
Hey,
speed it up. We all got this.
Hey, shut up, Paul. I'm gonna ban you right now. Just get off the phone right now. You keep interrupting. You have no right to do it. I'm banning you right now. Go ahead, Fritz. I'm sorry.
Okay. What was that? You telling me I'm going too slow?
He was. He did. Don't pay any attention to him. He's not right.
Okay. Well, yeah, I understand that in the listening audience, you're going to have all kinds of people. Well, I wanted to read you a quote from G.M. Butler's book, Ritual Magic. He's a magician. And he said, and this is on page 307, and I'm giving a little bit more documentation maybe that I would in some radio interviews, because I know that there's people out there that are a little skeptical, and giving some of the documentation might help them get past get them over their denial. So he says in his book, Ritual Magic, it was the Kabbalists who emphasized the mystery surrounding the letters JHVH by referring to the name they represented as the word of four letters, Tetragrammaton. And this caught on like wildfire in the magical text. Few indeed and far between are those modern rituals in which that awe-inspiring name does not occupy the place of honor. So in magic, the word Jehovah is very important. In fact, if you're a Freemason, that's the big word that they give you as Master Mason on the 3rd degree, is they teach you that this magical word Jehovah. And this all goes back to the Kabbalah, which maybe we'll touch on some more. So people, even the Watchtower Society, I mean, I remember when I was associating with it, they even had different things in some of their writings that showed that they were aware that the Tetragrammaton was probably not pronounced Jehovah, but they just pushed that. As you know, Rick, they pushed that as, that's your primary duty, is to call yourself a Jehovah's Witness, because, you're honoring God. If you don't use the word Jehovah, that you're dishonoring God. You're not a Christian or whatever. So it's they really overemphasize that, and why don't they go to some better pronunciations of the Tetragrammaton? You know, ask yourself that, because Jehovah is the pronunciation that's used in magic. And why did Charles Taze Russell come up with a Watchtower? Well, I came to realize from researching all this that he was into Enochian magic. And you asked me if I had explained that to the listeners a little bit. There was a man named Sir John Dee. He was the court advisor to Queen Elizabeth I, and he was a magician. He was connected with the Illuminati bloodlines, and there's a guy named Flood who was in charge of the Priory of Zion. That was his best of friend that he traveled with. That was his student. So, I mean, he was connected. Sir John Dee had an assistant, and they did all this stuff with crystal balls to come up with, and they were being given this by what they called angels, but he drew one of these angels, and I tell you, Rick, what he drew is what people call a great alien today. So these great aliens gave them this stuff. They gave them the Enochian magic and the Enochian magical alphabet, and key to Enochian magic are the watchtowers. There's 4 watchtowers. You have to know how to use the watchtowers. So that's why he picked this as his logo. And the word watchtower in Hebrew is mizpah. And I have a lot of Masonic books. And he was a Knights Templar. That's the York Rite of Freemasonry. And his membership records are kept over in Ireland, by the way. And so I was curious, you know, because I knew I had seen in researching Freemasonry that there were lodges called Mizpah, but you know, it wasn't until I focused on it that I discovered that I found 4 lodges worldwide that were named Mizpah, which means watchtower, and 3 of them were right there at Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh area. Interestingly, so when he was in, and at least a couple of them, as I remember, were York Rite. So you know, right there where he was attending there in the Pittsburgh area, his the lodges there, the York Rite Lodge, had a couple Mizpah lodges and watchtower lodges. And one of the things that higher magicians in Freemasonry do is they do Enochian magic. Enochian magic is done by a lot of different people, especially like Satanists like Aleister Crowley and others. So it's not something that's just white magic, but heavy duty Satanists. That's very important for them to know how to use the watchtowers. So another thing that he was very big on was promoting the golden age. He said we were going to go into a golden age. And those out there who want to, you can research what that term means. The occult world has been promoting the golden age. I mean, there are like the Golden Dawn, which was a lodge system of Satanists. They were very big into wanting the golden age. Now they split, but their parts, the different parts that they broke into, like the AA, they continue to push and look forward to this golden age. So this is something that's occultic. The golden age is not a biblical concept, but it was something that he pushed quite a bit. And then he put the ring sun disk on all of his books. And I know these kind of things mean nothing to most people. They didn't to me. When I was a teenager, I took care of our family's library, and somehow our family had gotten a couple of Charles Taze Russell's studies in the scripture, and they both had the winged sun disk on them. I remember after I became a Christian, I tried to read his books, but they were so weird. They're just weird. And then what's that wings globe or winged sun disk? Well, I'm going to quote a book, The Rosicrucians, Their Teachings, from it came out in 1923, and this is from page 112. It's written by a Freemason leader, and he was also a Rosicrucian leader, R. Swinburne Clymer. And he said, quote, the winged globe is primarily a Rosicrucian symbol, although the Illuminati may claim to it. So it's also an Illuminati symbol. It represents sun worship and sexual ritual. See, and it was also, it was used by all different kinds of occultists. And if you go to Babylon and Egypt, you go into the tombs, you'll see that they put over the doors, they put the winged sun disk because it's a magical symbol. So this is not some innocuous thing. I mean, this is straight out of the occult world, and it's a heavy-duty occult symbol, magical symbol. And so he's putting this on his books. The Theosophical Society uses it. The OTO, the Rosicrucians, and straight-out Satanists like what's his face that we just mentioned?
Crowley.
Crowley, yeah, exactly. Aleister Crowley. So, back in 1917, I wrote an article this last year about the Ascona conference. It was held in southern Switzerland by the OTO and the Theosophical Society.
Well, hold on one second. Hold on now. Let's switch. Fritz, just hold on now. OCO, go ahead. Explain this to us. What is that so the audience knows?
Yeah, the OTO is basically an Illuminati organization. It's the distillation of occult power throughout all these different fraternal organizations. So the OTO has members in a lot of different occult fraternal organizations. And when you go and look at the membership, you'll see that the OTO overlaps with the Rosicrucians, they overlap with the Theosophical Society. So, when you go and look at
what we want to do now, let me come right back in here. I just don't want to get too far into the weeds, as I would say, but let's just talk about this for a second. So we have a lot of new people listening in here tonight. Many people know you. Many people know who the Illuminati is, but many people are leaving the Watchtower right now and they're tuning into the sixth screens and they're saying, what is this all about? So could you just briefly tell us what is the Illuminati for people listening in that don't know? What is the Illuminati?
Yeah, right. It's the continuation of the mystery religions from way back. And another way, from a Christian perspective, we would call it generational Satanism. But you have to understand that people that reject God's truth are willing to accept anything as truth. And so they have all kinds of different rituals. They have all kinds of different gods, all kinds of different stuff in these organizations. But fundamentally, they use the Kabbalah, and the Kabbalah is behind the Tetragrammaton, as I just got through reading in Ritual Magic book, and so the OTO is, when you have generational Satanism, it wants to be hidden, so they have to work through some front organizations that are semi-secret. So the OTO is pretty secret. They're just not out there parading in front of people. But they have enough visible exposure that, we know of their existence. Just like Freemasonry, they claim that they're not a secret society. They're just a society with secrets. However, if you go to a Masonic hall, they are just like a kingdom hall. They have all the windows blacked over, and you can't see in them. And what they do is secret. And in the first initiation, you swear on oath of gruesome death that you'll ever conceal and never reveal the secrets of Freemasonry. So these are secret societies, but we do know of their existence, where the Illuminati is so nebulous that a lot of people question that it even exists. But maybe while we're talking about the Illuminati, I should explain.
Well, hold on now. Let's just do this now. Let me come in here. I'm going to try to just work you through this, because our audience really wants to grasp everything that you're saying, Fritz. So the Illuminati is a secret, esoteric society that delves in Satanism. Now, what is their agenda? What is the Illuminati's agenda? Tell us that.
Okay, well, I should explain that they are Satan's hierarchy, and they have regular meetings where they have instructions imparted to them by Satan. And when I explain a little bit more, it'll make a little bit more sense. I was called to expose all this stuff, so that's why I ended up. I have been in the occult myself, but I did thousands of hours of research into the occult and into the Illuminati. And then a friend of mine, a Christian brother, who's a people person, and he was walking along, and he heard these four women say the word Illuminati, and he turned around and he said, Illuminati, if you're interested in the Illuminati, you need to meet my friend, Fritz Springmeier, because he knew of all this research I'd done. Well, it turns out that those four women were members in the Illuminati, and they had been teamed together, and they were forming a support team to get out of the Illuminati. So they met me, and when I met them, that was my big break. Just like I had a big break in working for Witness Incorporated and being right there with their comprehensive library, so I could research everything about the Watchtower Society. This was a break because now I had four witnesses whose stories could collaborate each other. They were insiders. And now I was no longer on the outside looking in, but I could understand the organization from the inside. And that was my big break. And I knew that there were 13 families, or bloodlines is a better word for 13 bloodlines, that the Illuminati had elevated to be their top bloodlines, And so, having done all this research, I did a computer print out of these top families' names, the surnames, And the first meeting that we had, I said, would you circle the top 13? And I had the Russell name on there because I had come to very highly suspect that the Russell family, the Russell bloodline, was one of the top 13. And when one of them circled the Russell surname, I got teary-eyed. It was like an Olympic athlete, winning some competition or something. It just like, wow, this was really an emotional point for me. But there's a lot about the Russell family, and I wrote a book, Bloodlines of the Illuminati, which has the whole chapter on the Russell family, and they've been involved in a lot of things. They were involved in they created the Order of the Skull and Bones, which is a chapter of the Bavarian Illuminati. We know that because somebody broke into the Order of Skull and Bones tomb, and on the wall was one of the rituals that the Bavarian Illuminati of Adam Weishaupt had. So, I mean, we've been able to piece together a lot of this stuff, and having these 4 women talk to me really helped, and so then I was able to understand the rituals and their mind control, and so that helped me even more. I already was aware at that time that the Watchtower Society was a front for the Illuminati, just like the Mormons are a front for the Illuminati. I was already aware of that, and so I don't know. Have I explained the Illuminati enough?
Yeah, no, that's enough. In fact, what we got there, so I believe we got the Illuminati. I just want to go slow for the sake of people just coming out of the Watchtower. So you mentioned in the book the bloodlines of the Illuminati. You mentioned Russell, of course. That's Charles Taze Russell, and he has the bloodlines. In other words, he's in this group known as the Illuminati. Now, Fritz, I have to tell you, when I first was coming out of the Watchtower, this is one of the very first things that was brought to my attention, is Russell was involved with this Illuminati. I never heard the term Illuminati, but now, I mean, most people do know what it is. And just for the sake of clarifying it and getting back to its agenda, the Illuminati's agenda would be, in your explanation, what would you say their agenda is?
Okay, hey, Rick.
Hey, listen.
If you don't know who the Illuminati is, you're what?
All right. I don't want this guy. He keeps butting in. I don't want people butting in. So go ahead, Fritz.
Their agenda is to bring in a world order. And in fact, that was one of the things that I wanted to discuss, was how I went back through the years, because I had available to me everything that the Watchtower had put together. And I was able to say, I was able to write a chapter in my Be Wise as Serpents book, the Watchtower's Mein Kampf, where I put together a lot of these things, and I'll just tell you some of them, and because it compares with what the Illuminati is trying to do. So the Illuminati created the French Revolution, and that's a whole big subject in itself, how they did it and everything. But so in the Awake magazine of 12/22/1989, and I got the Awake magazine, that issue. They said that the French Revolution is a picture of what will come. Okay, so that really startled me, because I knew that the Illuminati had created the French Revolution, and then they're saying that it's a picture of what's coming. And then, of course, I can give the references to where these things are, but I think I'll just say what they are without giving the references. They said bad people will be cleansed and eliminated, and they said millions will be killed, and there'll be 7 months to gather up the bodies and bury them, and it'll be a time of bloodshed and slaughter equal to all the bloodshed of history. This is what they're saying is going to come. And then they say we're going to get one world. This is the Watchtower saying this. We're going to get one world government. We're going to get a one world language. Education in the New World Order is, and they use the word transforming. And I was like, whoa, that sounds just like the World Economic Forum today. The World Economic Forum, if our listeners have heard of it, is actually an Illuminati organization. And the leaders, like Klaus Schwab, are Illuminati members. So they say in this world order that's coming, this new world order, if you want to put it that way, conveniences will be rare, children will belong to the state. This is their great paradise that they're offering us. But when you actually look at the details in their writing, this is not a paradise I want to be in part of. And they say once the earth is refilled, then reproductive powers of people will be taken away. Well, gross. And then I actually found a reference in the Watchtower that said occult powers will operate in the world order. And I'm like, whoa, what? Occult powers? In the Watchtower of 3/1/32, that would be March 1/32 on page 76, they say Jesus is Lucifer's brother. Well, that's okay. Thank you. That's my 2-year-old just gave me a cookie. That's an Illuminati belief that Jesus and Lucifer are brothers. It's also a Mormon belief too. So it's interesting that the Watchtower Society would say that. And then in their book, The New World, on page 22, they say Lucifer's reign in heaven was the original world and a spiritual haunt. So it's like maybe they're trying to prepare us for what the Illuminati wants to bring in. Illuminati wants to get rid of a large share of the population. I've heard different figures from different people, but basically, I visited with Illuminati kingpins, and we've got, I don't know, I'm not saying an exact figure here, but like 9 billion people on Earth, and they want to take the population down to like 500 million. Well, that's a lot of genocide. That's a lot of people that they'd like dead. And they consider us useless eaters. So yeah, if they can actually reduce the population down that much, it will be right in line with what the Watchtower Society is predicting. 7 months to gather up the bodies and bury them. That doesn't sound like paradise to me. And that's from the book, From Paradise Lost to Paradise Regained, page 211. Doesn't sound like paradise to me. So there's a whole long agenda of what the Illuminati is wanting. They would like to, just like this said, conveniences will be rare. They want us to get rid of gas-powered vehicles. They're as a temporary control expedient. They want to bring in smart equipment, like your dishwasher and your washing machine will be smart, which means that the government, if they don't like what you're doing, can stop them, just like they can stop modern cars. I got a really good quote about what's happening, what the Illuminati's doing. I think maybe it's appropriate to read it right now because it answers your question, what is this Illuminati agenda? This was something that Spyro Skorna said. He said about this agenda that the World Economic Forum is pushing. This is not about saving the planet. This is not about equality. This is about control. They want to redefine what it means to be human and determine for you your role and your future of being essentially a transhumanist cyborg integrated into this new control grid where we will be unable to distinguish organic life from artificial. We won't even have access to our own thoughts, or we'll have access to them, but we won't even be able to control our own thoughts and emotions because they're going to do that for us because we're going to be tied into their grid system, which is exactly what they're doing, is they are getting us all tied in to their AI run computers, and you like where I used to live on the West Coast, everybody was walking around with their heads, their faces in their screen, you know. Maybe you see that in Massachusetts too. I don't know. Not so much here in the Midwest, but yeah, people they're just totally connected to the internet, and that's not by accident. So this is all by design. And remember, I was talking about the Kabbalah and how these things that Russell was doing are connected to Kabbalistic magic. Well, there was what I would call a Kabbalist prophet. Kabbalists don't call him a prophet; they just say he was a genius. But his actual name was Elijah ben Solomon Zalman, but the name that he goes by is Vilna Gaon. And he said there was going to be a Geula time period, which is we're in this final Geula time period. It's this time of this new world order. It means a period of redemption. And he predicted all of these developments of technology, which he said would bring mankind to salvation. That the development of technology was a holy sacrament, right? And it blows me away what he predicted. What he was saying was there would be this database of all universal knowledge, this AI database. And he was predicting these supercomputers with AIs running the show, you know. And there's even a novel that goes along with this picture. The novel's entitled Reality. It came out in 2019. And in this novel, they show an AI supercomputer used by what they call the syndicate to dominate and run the world. And the AI supercomputer is called Metatron. Well, Metatron is a Kabbalistic angel. So people that are Kabbalistic magicians are quite familiar with the term Metatron as an angel. So this all ties in. So here you have all of these occultists, these Satanists trying to bring in this New World Order. Originally, the purpose that the Illuminati wanted for the Watchtower Society was to promote Zionism and to diminish Christianity. And a lot of people don't know that Charles Taze Russell spent a lot of time promoting Zionism. He was the first Zionist, and he didn't promote himself publicly as a Jew. He promoted himself as a Christian pastor. But when he would get audiences, he would go to like a hippodrome or someplace where he would invite in thousands of people. And then in some of those talks, he said, well, as a Jew talking to Jews, you know, then he would actually call himself a Jew. But which now you can see why the B'nai B'rith would finance him. And you know, he started out with nothing when he started his organization. And if you look at his finances over the years, he got filthy rich, you know. But when Zionism got off and running real well, then they gave the Watchtower Society another purpose, which was to destroy nationalism. But maybe people are familiar with Kirkpatrick, Jean Kirkpatrick. She was the American ambassador to the United Nations. She was also in the Council of Foreign Relations, which is an Illuminati organization that does a lot of work for them and advises the U.S. government, as well as other foreign governments. The Council of Foreign Relations, she's a member. And she wrote a book about Charles Taze Russell because she was saying he's a neglected part of history, that his work promoting Zionism was very important. So her whole book's about how Charles Sage Russell was this great Zionist. And he was. He went all over the world. And I did a lot of research into his finances, and it's obvious that he almost had a blank check. Whoever was financing him, again, I told you where the money was being funneled through the B'nai B'rith and the Masonic lodges. The people that were the Illuminati kingpins that were funneling money to him essentially gave him a blank check. He was making a lot of money, and they were giving away. They would stand outside the churches and give away free books. They would give away, like, within a year, they would print up and give out maybe 300,000 copies of a book. Big hardbound books, his studies in the scripture. Yeah, he was spending a lot of money, and this was not coming from they weren't selling books. They were giving books out back then. Now the Watchtower Society sells books. That's a whole nother story. As you know, Rick, they're making a lot of money, investing a lot of money in a lot of shady places. They won't, like you were mentioning to me, their members aren't allowed to work in the military-industrial complex, yet they turn around and invest in military-industrial stocks, etc. That's just a little bit.
That's just one little example, but no, it's just fascinating. We do have a big crowd listening into you tonight, Fritz. We have a lot of people we're on a number of different platforms, Facebook, YouTube, but lots of people are listening with a lot of interest. And as you and I discussed certain things in the last couple of days, there's certain things that popped out in my mind that I think that people, things that I grasped, things that kind of rocked my boat a little bit. But first of all, I just want to mention that, there are people listening in. I'm really even surprised that, so many people, when there's two camps that Jehovah's Witnesses fall into when they leave the Watchtower. They can fall into the, non-believing camp, or they can fall into the believing camp, and they still do have a belief in God. But what I find is people who fall into the non-believing camp, they don't believe anything about the Freemasonry and Watchtower's connection with the Freemasons. They just can't go that far. But it seems like those that do find spirituality, become Christians, they seem to understand this Freemasonry connection, Enochian magic, the occult connection, all of this. So there's like two camps, but that's not to say I'm beating up on the camp that doesn't follow this. But listen into what Fritz has to say. But you mentioned some things to me, Fritz, in the last couple of days that kind of really struck my fancy. Now,
Okay.
So let me just reiterate here what got my thinking up is when you and I talked, you talked about the Watchtower being, of course, part of the Illuminati, and they were used by the Illuminati at first to go door to door, and you said that they had a reason for that. Would you like to elaborate on that? Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the Illuminati kingpins, and I've quoted him quite a bit, he said that people only change when they're afraid, so they like to scare us. And we need to ask ourselves, what is the system trying to scare us with? Well, the later purpose, besides destroying nationalism, was to scare the world about the apocalypse coming. And the Illuminati, and I know this is a fact. I'm not making this stuff up. I've been researching this for many, many decades. I've written all these books. I've interviewed who knows how many people, including a lot of people that came out of the Watchtower Society, that a number of them were involved with generational Satanism while they're in the Watchtower Society. And, the things I tell you people, I know. I've done thousands of hours of research into documents and books and everything. and I paid a price for all of this. So anyway, the Illuminati want to create the four horsemen of the apocalypse. They want to. And if you're going to go to all that trouble to create wars, famines, and inflation, then you want people to really be afraid of it. And they have been building up this tempo, this tension worldwide by going to everybody's home and saying Armageddon's coming, because they're going to create Armageddon. And if you look at the movie industry has just been kicking out one movie after another with these apocalyptic themes. You know, this is where they're going. And that was a major purpose of the Watchtower Society. And that is why they wanted them to go door to door and tell everybody this is coming. Because a lot of people, like let's say somebody in Timbuktu or Nepal, they don't have a television. They don't read much, you know, unless somebody comes to their door and shows them a Watchtower magazine saying, you know, the apocalypse is coming. They're never going to hear that.
We'll stop right there for a second. Would it be feasible? Would it be okay to say that the Illuminati had an agenda for the Watchtower to spread this idea? Huh?
Oh yeah. It was. So yeah, exactly. That was their purpose.
So it was set up. The Watchtower was set up as a tool or an agency of the Illuminati to spread this idea of Armageddon. Now, some of the terms you mentioned too, New World Order. When did we first hear those? We heard those back in the 50s from the Watchtower, right?
Yeah. They used them, and their New World Translation, you know, which is not a translation. That's another story. But you know, we found out how they made that so-called translation, the Douglas Walsh trial in Scotland. It wasn't a translation at all. But anyway, yeah, they entitled it New World Translation. Yeah, that's what they kept saying, you know, we're going to go into this world order. They used the terms synonymously. Exactly correct. And going back to some of the things that Charles Taze Russell was into, he believed that God lived in the Pleiades. And you can go to Aleister Crowley, you can go to Alice Bailey, you can go to some of these other people. They believe the same thing. This is a satanic belief, you know. People may not know who Alice Bailey was. She was the head of the Theosophical Society. And she said that when this New World Order comes in, that Lucifer is going to reign on the earthly sphere, and in the spiritual dimension, it's going to be Sana, which is a scrambling of Satan. So there you go. And so.
Well, it's all fascinating stuff. And I'll tell you what, we're going to save the best for last here, but there's something that I've been promoting all day on the 6 screens and telling people that, we'll get into that later about the Watchtower really is going to be downsizing and kind of getting away from all of this for reason, but we won't talk about that right now. We'll talk about that in a while. So what we're going to do here, I mean, I'll tell you, it's very fascinating. We do have lots of people listening in. They're very inquisitive. They're really listening intently. So some people never heard this before. So I want to just say to the audience, now look at it, if you're a Jehovah's Witness, just getting out of the organization, I understand that this is really like, wow, it can be very choking to you. It's like, I've never heard this before. But, you know, stop and think about it. I just want our audience to think about the fact that Jehovah's Witnesses are a very esoteric society. Well, you say, well, what does that mean? It's very secretive. They don't share much with us. It's very mind controlling. And Fritz is even going to get into some of their mind controlling techniques. But this is very new to many people. Now, many on here are writing. They're writing here on YouTube in the chat. Many of them are totally agreeing with everything you say. And where this is new to some people, they may question it. But there are powers out there. I mean, can you guys see that the world is changing very rapidly? And you say, well, what is going on? What's beneath the surface? Well, I mean, you can kind of think that, well, maybe it's just the way it's always been, and there is no agenda. There's nobody trying to manipulate or maneuver us into situations we don't want to be maneuvered into. But this is not the case, according to Fritz. He says there's an agenda, that they want to change the world we're living in, and not only change it, but they want to create a genocide against you and kill you off in the process. Is that right, Fritz?
Yes, and it's not even a secret. You can just go and listen to what the World Economic Forum is calling for. World Economic Forum openly has said, like Klaus Schwab, the head of it, he said that in the future, you're going to own nothing and be happy. Well, that's mind control. And that's very similar to some of the things that the Watchtower wrote about, what would happen in the New Order would be, that there wouldn't be conveniences, that you'd be happy, but you wouldn't have much. Yeah, well, I've told someone it reminds me of this song back in the 60s where this guy's in Custer's unit going for the little bighorn, and he said, "Gee, Mr. Custer, I don't want to go." Well, that's not where I want to go either.
Well, what we're going to do here right now is we got plenty of time here, and Fritz is willing to give us time. So what I'm going to do, Fritz, if you don't mind, we're going to open up the lines. We do have some people who want to talk to you, and then we'll go back to your narrative on all of this. But let's open the lines right now. Let's see what people want to say. So we get Fritz on with us. Go ahead, Michael. Make a comment. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Fritz. Nice to hear from you. I'm one of the people that got out of Jehovah's Witnesses, and then before I accepted Christ, I wanted to make sure I didn't want to get caught up again. So I started to check everything out. I came across you through Alex Jones. He talks about you a lot, by the way. And then I started to study the things that you're talking about. So I understood that. Now, just real quickly, what about the vaccine? Isn't the vaccine part of the
hold on. We can't talk about the vaccine. That's I hate to say it, but we can't do it because YouTube will take us down the heartbeat. We cannot talk.
This will be taken down immediately if you talk about that.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, I know. All right, I just want to make sure we're thought the same. I appreciate you. I've read a lot of your stuff, by the way. And I hope you get back on the Alex Jones show, too. He asks about you. He talks about you a lot.
He does? Oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Michael.
That's all I need to say.
Oh, good. Thank you, Michael.
Okay.
Sorry we can't discuss what you want to, but they'll shut me down the heartbeat. They'll take the program right down, so we can't do it.
I understand.
Okay.
I understand.
Well, thank you, Mike, for understanding. Okay, let's go to who's next? Go ahead. We got a bunch of people.
Hey, this is Tim from New Jersey. I wanted to ask Mr. Springmeier if he heard about the Noahide laws.
Oh, yes, I have. I'm familiar with that. And they're pushing
would
that.
his doctrine be there?
Pardon me?
Wouldn't that be their doctrine? The Noahide law be their core doctrine? It's the denial of Jesus Christ.
One of the things that I was going to discuss that we didn't get into yet was how the Watchtower Society has fulfilled their primary purposes, like they've helped destroy nationalism, they've scared people about the apocalypse, and they've diminished Christianity, and some of these other goals. And the Watchtower and the Illuminati can let them fade. And that's what's happening right now. They're selling off properties and they're running with the money. The people that are running the show, the hierarchy, they're selling off things and getting the money. because it's not important for the Watchtower Society to continue. Eventually, the Illuminati agenda is for all Christian denominations except for two. That's the Catholic Church out of Rome and the Church of England. Those are the only two that they want to survive, and those will survive in a different form than what we see right now. The goal is when everything's perfected in this new world order that we're already in, that people will worship Lucifer. So they don't need the Watchtower Society anymore.
And that was Albert Pike when he said 3 world wars. Albert Pike was an occultist. He was a master of Freemasonry, and they practiced divination of sorts. And that's what the Watchtower got into with the prediction, the end of the world.
Yeah, the Albert Pike is right in line with a lot of things that the Watchtower Society was saying and doing. I mean, Albert Pike was fully aware of the Tetragrammaton, the winged sun disk, the pyramids. I mean, Enochian magic. Albert Pike was fully aware of all these things. So, and he was the Grand Poobah of Freemasonry. He was the head of Freemasonry. Has a statue of him in Washington, D.C. And so, yeah, exactly. And as you said, he's one of our sources where we have written down in a letter that's in the museum in London that there's 3 wars planned. And other people that were witnesses that came out of the Illuminati, as well as some of the kingpins I've talked to, they've all validated, yeah, we're going to have another world war.
Wow. And the Staros that the witnesses prayed to instead of a cross, that would be an obelisk like the Washington Monument, or even the One World Trade Center that's made up. If you look at the One World Trade Center, it's made up of 6 triangles, which would also be the flag of Israel, which is the Star of Renfan. And they were given over to the worship of the host of heaven. And that's how they control society, like Simon Magus in Samaria.
Well, yeah, some of these subjects are actually counterproductive to, I think the people, if they start researching, they're going to bump into these subjects too. So it's not, I try to be a little strategic in what I talk about because, again, I've had things taken down. Some of my interviews have been taken down almost instantly if I touch on things that the system is sensitive about. I guess they still think that a lot of this stuff about the Illuminati is so far out there that people won't believe it. I don't know. Although I am getting a lot of trouble having these interviews the last few months is communication. All these apps that like Zoom or Signal or stuff don't work when I try to do an interview. So I'm really pleased. I'm really thankful that I was able to do this interview tonight.
Well,
and I pray for you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. What do you want to say to Fritz? He's on with us. Go ahead, caller. Speak up.
I have a question here.
Hello?
That has been. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. We got him first.
Yeah, great.
Go ahead.
Rick, it's a pleasure to speak to you, my friend. I've read some of the books. I've done a lot of research on Freemasonry and Illuminati and New World Order. Can you speak, or have you come across that Mr. Freddie France was a high Freemason, and that the idea that Jehovah's Witnesses is the only religion in the world that promotes that Jesus died on a stake is actually an inversion of the phallus, because these worshipers actually worship the phallus, which represents the generative force of Nimrod, and also that the blood transfusion actually is an inversion of sacrificing to the gods. So in other words, they always need the shedding of blood to appease the Satan and the demons. And so the fact that Jehovah's Witnesses promote non-blood transfusion, in other words, you're really giving up your life and sacrificing to Satan and the demons. So it's kind of like broadcasting or appeasing the demons Have you come across anything like that?
I can agree with you, and I'll talk a little bit about Freddie Franz. He was called their Oracle, and during the 90s, he was an old man that was blind, that was most of the time in bed, and yet he was still president of the Watchtower Society. And if somebody wanted to know his decision on something, why, he had a bodyguard named Nathir Salih, and you would ask Nathir Salih the question, and a Iraqi Jew, and he wore all this jewelry, big jewelry, and he would go into the room of Freddie Franz, and he would supposedly ask Freddie Franz and then come out with the answer. What I believe is he was the Illuminati's man to run the Watchtower Society. Now, Freddie Franz is a little strange. We had a problem with the governing body members having, a number of them I know were homosexuals. Freddie Franz used to have the young boys there at Bethel. They would sit around the table and he would conduct a Bible study or talk about the Bible in the nude with them. But after a while, I guess somebody brought that to a halt. But yeah, I wouldn't contradict the things that you're saying, and it's the leadership, the hierarchy. You know, going back to what somebody said earlier about the secrecy. You know, there was one man, he said, I went to the Kingdom Hall because I was interested in their religion, but I saw that there weren't any real windows. He said, I'm not going to join a religion that doesn't have windows on their building. And I thought that's very astute, because their Kingdom Halls were designed after Masonic halls, which don't have windows either. And I asked this one elderly Jehovah's Witness, who had been a Jehovah's Witness her whole life. I said, well, who is the president of the Watchtower Society? And she kind of got scared and she said, I don't know. It's like the people up there, the hierarchy is like the gods on Mount Olympus or something in the clouds that you're not supposed to find anything out about. So the rank and file Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't know anything about their hierarchy, you know.
No, it's all exoteric.
Yeah.
It's all exoteric. The other thing, too, I had a question if you can bring out or touch on the fact that there's only one other religion that denies the body of Christ and the blood of Christ, and I believe it's the same Church of Saints. And Jehovah's Witnesses, since they exoterically teach the world to come and join us in this memorial service, but only 144,000 can partake. In a sense, they're teaching the world to deny the body of Christ.
It's a strange ceremony that they have, where they pass around the wine and the bread. Look at you.
Do you remember how weird? Do you remember how weird it was to go out and they put a big push on? You're going to pioneer for a month or so before the but then when if you could get somebody to come to the meeting, you'd have to say, oh no, you can't eat or drink. You just have to come. It felt really weird. It's like, just come here and watch us. What it was so contradictory to what I didn't get it, man.
Well, it's right in line with, they say that the Bible was not written to the great crowd. It was only written to the anointed. And therefore the great can't understand it on its own. They have to be in touch with the Mother of God. It's right in line with a number of their other teachings. And what they do is, and see, that's why they never got me as a convert, is because I was a born-again Christian. I had felt the anointing of God. I had seen miracles by God. I knew him. I knew God. So, I wasn't going to throw away my relationship with God and all that I had seen him do in my life for a religion that won't even allow me to be born again. I'm just supposed to become one of the dumb sheeple in the great crowd and regurgitate their low-level mind control that comes through the Watchtower magazine.
Well, Fritz, so what we're going to do now, we're going to move on. We're going to get you back on track here. Then we'll open the lines up in a little bit. So you guys just keep hanging in, and we'll get more from Fritz here. We have him on for a couple hours tonight, and he's been willing to talk to us and tell us things. So, Fritz, let's go back to the Watchtower, and we talked about the Enochian magic. We talked about their role in the Illuminati. Now, their role, and you did bring up, and I brought up as well, that the first time I ever heard the term New World was in the Watchtower. The first time I heard the term New System, New Order was the Watchtower. So, you know, that always got me thinking, man, these guys must be part of this New World Order. So you're talking about a New World Order. Some call it the Great Reset. Some have other terms for it, globalist or whatever. So why don't you tell us about the agenda that the New World Order has? Tell us a little bit about the genocide. You talk about genocide, and you've written so many articles about this New World Order. Why don't you tell us what they're really trying to do to the people on planet Earth?
Wow, that's a thank you for opening that up, but it's a big, you know, they're killing us with 1,000 strokes, Rick, and people don't even know it. They don't even know how they're being killed. And in talking with some of these Illuminati kingpins, they actually laughed that we're stupid enough to eat the junk food that they're giving us. But you go to a grocery store, and I'm not going to get into the specifics because time, but almost everything in a grocery store, large grocery store, like let's say Walmart or something like back on the West Coast is Fred Meyer's, but whatever. Almost everything in there is tainted with something that's going to take your health down. And they're doing the same with our water supply. They're putting chlorine and fluoride in, and they have been for a century. And people aren't even aware. What does chlorine do to the body? And so they're doing a lot to take our health down. And then it's like, oh, Rick, some of these topics I don't even know if I should even get into. But when a woman's pregnant and she starts the whole process of going to the doctor and she's eating all this junk food and following the advice of these doctors, it's all horrendous. And people don't, you know, Rick, I don't know, you probably grew up in a city, but if you grew up out in the countryside, you could see a mama cat. She gets pregnant, she goes off in the barn, and she has her baby kittens. No problem. She manages to do it all by herself. But they have told women that having a child is a crisis. And it is by the time they get done doing all that they're going to do. And I can't even get into that. It's like my last two sons, which turned out beautiful, they were born at home because we just do not trust the medical system. So the medical system, they're following protocols, and those protocols were put in place by some very evil people. It's very subtle how everything's done, but that's another way that they're taking our health down. The children here in my area, they no longer use books. They just use iPads. And the people aren't aware that those iPads, the antennas on the bottom, if the girls in school are not careful and they're kind of sloppy, and they put those iPads in their laps, the radiation from those after a while will kill their eggs and they'll be sterile. And same thing with all these women walking around with cell phones in their hip pockets. They're sterilized commercializing themselves, you know, and I've seen, like I was mentioning to someone, maybe it was you, that this woman was asking in this recent church service I went to, she was asking for prayers because she couldn't have children, but she was wearing tight blue jeans and had her cell phone in her hip pocket. You know, I mean, it looks cool, but it's really stupid. It's not wise that people would be aware. So they're doing so many things out there to destroy our health. And that's one way they're doing it. But then, like we talked earlier, you know, they've got a world war planned in the future. And they've got the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. You know, inflation, we're already into inflation. In some of these shows, I go in and detail out how they created the Ukraine war. The only people that are benefiting from the Ukraine war, it's not Russia. The Russian people aren't benefiting from it. The Ukrainians aren't. It's the Illuminati, World Economic Forum, with their agenda. You know, they want to take the population down. They like the idea of people starving or becoming unhealthy because they can't get good food. And oh my goodness, they're doing so many things.
You have really, I mean, in fact, really, I mean, some of the things that, so in other words, we're all being put to death by 1,000 cuts. In other words, you say that the women are going to be, you know, they won't be able to have children because of the cell phone and whatever vibrations or electronics are coming out of that phone is making women sterile. Yeah, radiation, whatever. But just on that same subject, I know that you have written about and talked about food supply and how we would actually even be put to in a position where we would eat human excrement.
Yeah, the World Economic Forum has said that in the future we'll eat excrement, human excrement, and bug protein. And then I thought, well, that's kind of far out there, you know. I know that they want us to eat excrement and die, but is that really going to happen? And then I had this National Geographic book that came out recently, and it's got an article about the future. And they said right in there, yes, that in the future we're going to eat human excrement and bug protein. So, hey, somebody as prestigious as National Geographic is saying this. Of course, National Geographic as a corporation is part of the World Economic Forum, so that's not totally surprising. But then I did some research and I discovered that there's a Japanese company that's actually developed the technology. They did the research and came up with the technology to take human poop and extract the protein and make artificial meat from it. And then DARPA over here in the United States, which is does the research for the military, they've also done the same research, the same topic, and they've come up with the technology too. So the technology is there. In terms of bug protein, there's a factory up in Canada that's already turning it out, and they're already starting to embed it into food. There's one airline that already serves bug protein. Some of the way they're going to put it into our food is they're just going to advertise on the cover lots of extra protein or something like this, and and people are really excited to get more protein. They won't even care, or question where this protein's coming from. They're gonna. So yeah, it's happening. It's coming. Well, as amazing as it.
Well, it's really amazing to me. In fact, some of the things we talked about, but Fritz, you talked about digital currency, and we'll get into that in a second. But just on Fox News, I mean, this is a reliable news station, and just yesterday I was watching it, and they had she was a blonde lady, I forget what her name was, but she came on and she was the deputy treasurer under Mnuchin in the Trump regime. So she was the deputy treasurer, and she was talking about how we may be losing the dollar standard. It's very possible that if Saudi Arabia goes along with China and Russia, that the dollar will not be the standard for the world's currency. So she was saying that this could create unbelievable inflation like we've never seen before. Now, we have seen inflation shoot up to 11%, but she was saying that that'll be nothing compared to what we see. So you think this is part of the Illuminati's agenda as well?
Oh, yeah. Something drastic has got to happen for them to shove these CBDCs, the central bank digital currencies. And from a Christian perspective, this central bank digital currency is simply a fulfillment of Revelation 13:14, where they say that you will not be able to buy or sell without their permission, and wow. Yeah, it's right around the corner. They've already done, one country already has digital currency full blown. That's Iran, because they're totally controlled. But they've run tests with digital currencies in many countries. I don't even try to keep track of how many. Even here in the United States, they've done some testing of digital currency. And if you listen to the IMF and World Bank, and those, I know as a fact that the leaders of World Bank and IMF are Illuminati members, and they talk about how the CBDCs are the answer to all of our economic problems.
Well, it's so good you talk about this, because it's bringing people, it's making people aware of this, Fritz. Now, one thing I wanted to bring up here tonight as well. Now, we have a man, Jimmy Bell, and he has had a program on here, but he got into a lot of things that they didn't like on YouTube. So he's no longer with us. We really love Jimmy. He's a good man, but he's writing in here, and I want to get your feelings on it. He is saying that Fox News is part of the propaganda machine. Now, how do you feel about the news agencies today? Are they telling the truth, Fritz?
The news agencies are owned and controlled by the Illuminati. No, you're not going to get, if their mouths are moving, they're lying. And, there were some fundamental truths that the Watchtower said. They would criticize the world. Well, the Bible itself, if you believe the Bible, it talks about what the world's all about. It's about death. There's the kingdom of life, which is Christ's kingdom, and there's the kingdom of death. And lies are part of death. If they're saying the truth, it's for an ulterior purpose that's deceptive. They've got an evil motive behind telling the truth. But it's really sad. And I see people watching the 6 o'clock news and just scooping it up. I had my own little personal run-in with the news agencies. I told you about it. It's one of the reasons why I kind of got a little soured on protesting the Watchtower Society, because they were building it was a double Kingdom Hall. It was 2 Kingdom Halls under one roof on Cal Boulevard there in Portland. And so Witness Incorporated decided to picket it while they were building it, so we would take away their publicity stunt. And so we were out there, about 30 of us picketing. And like I told you, some of us had actually gone into the neighborhood and put stickers and talked to the people, put this sticker up, and the Jehovah's Witnesses won't come to your house, which we got a lot of people that put up those stickers. But anyway, we're out there picketing, the news media comes, and they interview about 15 of us, and then I watch, and what we were protesting is the human rights abuses of the Watchtower Society. That's what our picket signs were about. That's what we talked about when we were interviewed. But what did they say on the 6 o'clock news? They said we were a bunch of disgruntled Jehovah's Witnesses that had been kicked out of the organization, and we were upset that we had been kicked out, and that's why we were picketing. And it just soured me. I mean, you do all of that work, and then the news media just deflects the truth and runs it into the ground. So yeah, that's a picture of how the news media works.
So you don't put much trust in the news media, Fritz?
No, in fact, the newspapers during that same time frame, I went to a newspaper and I thought, if I'm paying to advertise something, certainly they'll take my money, right? And I wanted to put an ad in to advertise Dwayne Mignani's books. They wouldn't do it. They said, we're not going to put in the newspaper anything that's derogatory to the Watchtower Society. And this is a regular secular newspaper. They wouldn't take my money.
Well, there's certainly so many things that we can question. I mean, Fritz, it's just unbelievable the work you have done. We have so many people right now that are coming in. They're really inquisitive. They're listening intently to what you have to say. Now, what I want to connect with right now is when you and I were talking the last couple of days, you brought up something that really rocked my boat or rattled my cage, as I would say. And it had to do with the Watchtower is deliberately trying to downsize. They no longer are going to be the predominant Watchtower that we all knew in the last 20, 30 years. Can you give us some insight on that? I mean, this really has got a lot of people wondering tonight. Why is the Watchtower kind of stepping down here? Can you tell us that?
Well, again, recapping their purpose, they were destroying nationalism. Like they went before the Supreme Court and made saluting the flag. You don't have to salute the flag, thanks to the Jehovah's Witnesses going to the Supreme Court and winning that battle. And why did they win in the Supreme Court? Well, the Supreme Court was heavily filled with a bunch of Freemasons that were actually behind the whole agenda that we've been talking about. They were to scare people about the apocalypse. Well, they've done that. Everybody's fully aware of this apocalypse, and Hollywood's doing things. And the diminished Christianity, they were used by the Watchtower. The Watchtower Society was used by the Illuminati to produce trauma-based, mind-controlled slaves. That's why you have so much deal with Oh, I'm hearing an echo.
It's an echo. We got people calling in here. I'm going to have to 737. Keep yourself. We'll get questions later. No questions right now. We'll get some questions later. Okay, hold on. We'll get questions later. Keep yourself muted. Go ahead. Go ahead, Fritz.
Thanks, because I was hearing an echo, and it's almost impossible.
Right.
To talk.
What they do is they come on. They come on the program. They got YouTube in the background. But you can't do that. Yeah.
So all these reasons, they don't need the Watchtower Society to produce trauma-based, mind-controlled slaves and bugger little boys. They've got plenty of other places that they can do that. So, as we said earlier, their major purpose has been fulfilled, and so they can kind of fade away. And so the hierarchy of the Watchtower Society, as you notice, they don't look like they're really sincere in trying to be successful. They're trying to pull back, and they've not had the Kingdom Halls open, which is really flaky. I mean, all these other churches have gone back to having church meetings, and they're selling off Kingdom Halls. Well, this would be all in line with them fading into the background, because in the long run, the Illuminati wants to get rid of them. And since they were created by the Illuminati, they were funded by the Illuminati to get started with, And people might say, well, Fritz, you're just making this up. No, there was a man in Switzerland who said that the Kingdom Halls were getting financed through the Masonic lodges, and then he was called on the carpet. Somebody sued him, and he proved in court. He brought out a letter that he had obtained from a Masonic lodge that was genuine, that showed that they were funneling money to the Jehovah's Witnesses Kingdom Halls. And a lot of people don't realize, for many years, in many of the early years, the Jehovah's Witnesses met in Kingdom Halls. In fact, even in recent times, there's still been a few of those going on. Like there was one in Australia where they were still meeting in a Kingdom Hall. Anyway, they're not needed. So, the hierarchy might as well grab their money and sell all this stuff off, grab their money. And, you look at all those properties down in Brooklyn. Oh, my goodness, how much money they were getting from selling all those properties. You watched that, Rick.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they might as well grab their money while they can. And I don't know you can't take it with you, so I don't know really what these people think that they're going to do, but whatever.
Well, no, you got a very fascinating thought there, Fritz. But, we got people commenting here on the different platforms. I'm trying to grab all the comments I can. But my good friend Bob Gray, now he's listening in here tonight. He's out of Portland, Maine area. Well, not Portland, but up in Maine. And, he's saying, well, wait a minute. How can the Watchtower be really downsizing or trying to go out of business? They're spending money, millions of dollars, on a new video production facility. So he's saying, well, how can they be fading away? But I have an answer for Bob. Bob, the media center is on hold right now. I did call the town of Ramapo. They said that it's on hold. I'm just thinking, don't take this to the bank and cash it, but this is a fundraiser. The Watchtower right now is trying to get as much money as they possibly can. They're trying to get as much money as they possibly can out of the witnesses' pockets, and send us money. We got a media center. But I called Ramapo. I called the town office just a week ago, and they said that the Watchtower building is on a hold pattern right now. So that's something to think about. Was this a scam? I can't say that for sure. But right now, the Ramapo building, the media center, is on hold. Can we go ahead, Fritz? Yeah.
Yeah, so the World Economic Forum wants people to be hooked to the internet and work from home, right? So this whole idea of, okay, they're going to shift to having their meetings over the internet, it's totally in line with the World Economic Forum's goals. And quite frankly, you have, the scriptures say that don't quit assembling. We are called to meet face to face. There's something very powerful in assembling face to face. It's not the same just watching someone online. And I would think that there's probably somebody in headquarters in the hierarchy that's intelligent enough to realize that. So some of the things they're doing are how to put it, they're not the optimum to promote their organization.
Well, Fritz, what I want to do, play, you're doing a great. Hold on 1 second, sir. Let me just bring this up. Then we're going to open the lines up. But I just want to reiterate some things that Fritz has said. Fritz, I'm going to go on the record here to say that where the Watchtower has been part of the Illuminati, they were used in the beginning, so to speak, to get the wheels of progress moving, to get people out talking about Armageddon, to talk about the apocalypse and Armageddon coming and going to destroy the whole world. So now what we're realizing is the Illuminati no longer needs the Watchtower to do this, so they're going to kind of settle back somewhat, get out of the picture, and slowly do this. Am I correct in thinking this?
Yeah, and there's things coming up that they have planned that should take down most of these organized religions. So the Watchtower Society has for over a century been saying
I have a question. The Illuminati.
All right, just we'll get him later. He has too many questions. So Fritz, it's amazing. So
Yeah.
we feel that what's going on right now is, and I feel it too. I've been talking about this on our program here for the last year, that it's crazy. Okay. It's crazy what the Watchtower is even bringing up. It's almost like they don't want people involved with them. Some of the things they're saying just don't make sense at all to me. They have all these big fat buffoons coming on as governing body members. People are seeing them up front and close and going, wow, that's a faithful and discreet slave. That hasn't helped the Watchtower one bit. Plus, they're also selling off all these kingdom halls, assembly halls, real estate. Why are they doing this? They're grabbing as much money as they possibly can. It really does appear as though they are downsizing. There's no question about that. So that's something that I really, when you mentioned that to me when we were talking earlier today, that really got me thinking, Fritz, that this is true. I can see this happening as we're speaking. Can we, you want to open up the lines? You want to talk to some people?
Yeah, let's open up the line.
Rick, hey.
Okay, we got a lot of people coming in, so let's go one at a time.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna list them. I'm gonna call out the zip code of the area code. That is, I'm sorry. And let's go with 737 first. 737.
Yep. Hi, this is Archangel Michael. My birth name is Eric. You and I've talked to Rick before. Hello, Fritz. Hello.
Hey.
I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell everybody something. Everything Fritz Springmeier says is absolutely 100% on point correct. Oh, Brother Fritz, thank you and hallelujah for you. Praise you. You know that's the Father's name. Look, I've been following you for years and years. I know you spent some time incarcerated, so did I, for Messiah's name. And I'll tell you what, this is what's going on. And you know this, Fritz, as well as I do. Look, I'm doing it. I'm the one that's doing it. I'm taking down Freemasonry worldwide. Yeah, me. And it's happening right now. Don't matter how. You call me. I want you to call me anytime you want. I'd love to talk with you personally, one-on-one. But we're taking down Freemasonry. The first one to go is Watchtower. The rest will go like dominoes. Mm-hmm.
Well, there you go. You got at least one fan, Fritz. I mean, but I know
at least one fan.
Well, I know you have more than that. I really do. So
I love you, Fritz. You're the real deal. You are the man. Thank you.
Okay, we got 336 area code. Go ahead, 336. You're on with us.
Hey, Rick, it's Jimmy Bell.
Oh, Jimmy Bell. Yes. Go ahead, Jim.
You sounded like you were like exasperated that I called.
Well, no, I'm really happy you called. Really.
Okay, all right. Well, I just wanted to call in. First off, I wanted to say hello to Fritz. How you doing, man?
Thanks. Hello.
I had a quick question. When did you start diving into all this stuff?
Well, when I was associating with the Watchtower Society, I started trying to read Charles Taze Russell's books. Of course, they didn't like that because I was trying to get some history. Then when I got, then in 1984, when I started associating with Witness Incorporated, which is a Christian organization, I started delving into their history because then I could see the documents. I read Dwayne Mignani's books, and he documents a lot. And so in 1984, I was able to really get into their stuff And then all along, I've been watching the world system. And so it's really hard to say when exactly. I mean, it's been a lifetime thing. One of the things about me is I really loved history. So when I was in third grade, I started reading adult history books. And when you start reading a lot of history, you start seeing that there's anomalies. This doesn't make sense, or they're not telling the whole truth, or things like this. So all along, I've had red flags. When I was in high school, I had some good teachers, and they recognized where I was coming from. So they pointed me to read books. Like they said, hey, you should read 1984. You should read Animal Farm. You should read Brave New World, So that was good. So it's been an ongoing thing. And then in 1990, I had been working for Federal Highway Administration, and the job I was doing, I worked myself out of a job, and I didn't have a job, and so I could turn to this. And once I turned to doing what I was called to do, man, I didn't turn back. My Be Wise as Serpents book that I was writing in 1990 and 1991, I'd wake up in the morning after 3 hours of sleep, work on the computer, typing in until my eyes were so blurry I couldn't focus on the computer screen anymore, and I'd lay down for 3 hours and then get back up again. So, so from 1990 on, I was going full blast until they carted me off and gave me a break. And actually, that was good for my health.
Gotcha. So let me ask you this. Over the last, let's say, 4 years, have you seen an increase in people waking up to this information?
Oh, yes, because it's right in people's face. The thing of it is, when I was exposing the world order, I call it world order, not new world order, because it's been around a long time. When I was doing that in 1990, it was not a popular subject, and it seemed like it was a little out there. But now it's right in people's face, and boy, now people, back then I used to do radio shows and nobody would support me, and I barely have a nickel to make a photocopy or something. And now people are willing to, I've had a few people this last year, they paid me to write articles, and people have been supportive. And oh yeah, it's changed.
Well, I tell you what, the folks on Six Screens, they know who I am. I did a show called The Big Picture on Six Screens. I did it from like May of last year to I think the last one was in January or something. But I did talk a lot about a lot of the other things that are going on, and YouTube was flagging us. Now, I started going down this road in March of 2020, left Watchtower in 2018, and then realized in 2020 that, oh my God, Watchtower is part of this, what I call the deep state globalist. And when I was doing my Watchtower stuff in the beginning, people started talking about Freemasonry. Well, in the beginning, I shrugged it off because I didn't want to talk about it. I was like, oh, that can't be. But then after you wake up and continue to wake up and dig and dig and dig, you start to see that, oh, there are some connections between Watchtower and Freemasonry. And then that goes into them being part of Freemasonry. Exactly. It goes right into the fact that Watchtower, and I've been saying it ever since March of 2020, that Watchtower is nothing but a propaganda arm for the deep state.
Yeah.
And
exactly. Amen.
I tell you what, I would love to hook up with you through email, phone number, whatever, and I would love to have a conversation with you on our show. And I put it on BitChute. That way we can talk about anything we want to.
Yeah, man.
It's by Joe Rogan.
My email address is springmeiermessages@hotmail.com. If you know how to spell my name. It's in the spring like the season, M-E-I-E-R. It's a strange spelling for Meyer. And then messaging, all one word, all lowercase, at hotmail.com.
All right, Hotmail. Okay. Because for the audience, everything that, when he started out his interview tonight, it was a little slow, but I was like, you know what, let me keep listening. And the thing is, there's so many people that have left Watchtower, they don't even really want to, talk about these things, because a lot of times people are scared to talk about these things or dig into these things. But folks, he's right. I mean, this is what we've been saying for a while now, that Watchtower is part of this stuff. And the good thing is like Fritz said, they're going down. Watchtower is going down. And
everything that Fritz said is right. Everything.
Fritz, let me ask you this question, buddy.
Yeah.
Do you know about the Executive Order 13848?
Is that the one that creates the CBDC research, or what is it?
This is the one that was signed during the Trump administration, to where if an organization was involved with child trafficking or human trafficking, their assets would be seized.
Oh, okay.
Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, the Watchtower. Well, vaguely. I know that they're going after agencies like that. Yeah, I mean, they're going after groups that are involved. Yeah, and the Watchtower Society has a big problem that way.
Yeah, so I have
when they get shut down, they're going into full receivership. When they get shut down, which is going to be before October of this year, mark my words, they're going to go into full receivership. All their funds are going to get distributed to the needy of the earth.
Well, that would be great if it would happen, but our judicial system is so corrupt that
what I'm telling you, it is going to happen. It is happening right now, whether you know it or not. It is happening right now. They're going down before October, dead, ground meat. I say, but that's what the term I use. They're going to be ground meat before October.
Well, they deserve it. They have covered up a lot of pedophilia.
Yeah, one of the things that I know Watchtower is going down. It's going to happen. Now, I don't put dates out on things because, things happen, and, I don't want to be the one to put out expectations for folks. But I will say, yeah, Watchtower is going down, along with a lot of other entities. And the judicial systems here in the United States, they are being reworked right now as we speak, and they have been for a while.
This session is no longer being recorded.
Don't worry about it. Hold on 1 second. We're going to get the recording started once again. So just stay with us, and we'll get the recording up.
The recording has started.
Okay, we're all set. Good.
All right. So yeah, Fritz, I really would like to have a conversation with you sometime, because I think we have a lot in common. I want to learn some more things from you, and I think I don't know exactly what you do know, but I have an idea that you know a little bit more is coming than what most people see. And it's not. And one thing that I'll tell people is don't live in fear. That's what they want us to do.
Right.
And
exactly,
the deep state, they are going to fail. Let me say one last thing and then I'll go. I put in the chat a little while ago. Do you know how we know that the deep state is failing? Tell me, how many of you have an actual vaccine mandate card? I'm sorry. How many of you have that card in your pocket?
They're not scared.
Exactly. Not forcing it anymore. The whole other thing that happened in 2020, it's nothing anymore. It's gone bye-bye. So these things that the deep state, what's that?
That was just a big test. They got more things to pull off the shelf.
Yeah, I agree with that. They're not going to stop fighting, but they are running scared and they are panicked. So, and yeah, I would love to talk to you. I would love to talk to you sometime.
Okay.
So, all right. Well, hey, Rick, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thanks, bud. Have a good night.
Hello.
Okay, thanks.
Hello, Mr. Fritz.
Yes.
Hi, this is Rochelle from Milwaukee. Hi, Rick. Hi. Is Fritz is that how you pronounce it?
Yes.
Okay. I don't want to talk too long. I know a lot of people want to talk. But I've seen like your book. I haven't read it, but I've seen a cover of it on Amazon, and I really like some of the things you talked about tonight. But I just have a quick question. Why is it that if the Watchtower is so like rich, why are they still asking people? And I know you can't fully answer. I mean, maybe you can give me an idea of why, but why do they still beg Jehovah's Witnesses for money? And also, too, what is the proper? I mean, I know you can't really fully answer this. You can only give me your ideas on it, but what is the proper relationship between Jehovah's Witnesses and the Watchtower? That's something I've always tried to figure out, and I still can't figure it out, and I haven't gone to the Kingdom Hall since 2010.
Okay, so your first question, when people are greedy, they never are satisfied. So just because the hierarchy has a lot of money stashed away doesn't mean that they're not going to continue trying to fleece the rank and file. And they're going to try to get as much out of everything that they can. So you can't say, because they're begging for money that they're not rich. That just doesn't hold true. And Rick can comment on this too. The other question is what's the relationship between Jehovah's Witnesses and the Watchtower Society? Well, when I was associating, there was one Jehovah's Witness, for instance, he said, you know what? Whatever the Watchtower says is true. Now, I see the sky as blue, but if the Watchtower Society told me right now it's orange, then it's orange. Whatever they say is truth. And then when you talk to the people, and you would have a problem with maybe this doctrine or that doctrine, they'd say, well, do you believe that the Watchtower Society is the faithful and wise servant? And if you said yes, which is the correct answer for them, then they would say, well, if they're the faithful and wise servant and they're saying something, then that's the way it is. But if you say no, then they would automatically assume, well, you're wrong. You're off in la la land. You don't recognize the Watchtower Society as the faithful and wise servant. Therefore, you're either apostate or stupid or something. There's no use to continue because you don't even recognize the basic truth. So that's where the Jehovah's Witnesses are in relationship to the Watchtower Society. They just, it's a low grade mind control where as long as you don't buck the doctrinal system and how you're supposed to think, you can get away with murder. I've seen it. I've seen people that are members and they have bad morals, but they don't try to buck the system at all. They go to the Kingdom Hall, they participate in the Watchtower studies, and they don't say that the Watchtower Society is wrong in anything, and their morals can be really really bad.
Is that what they call PMOs?
Well, I suppose.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fritz. I'm letting some other people know.
Fritz, can I ask you a question? So I've been following the world scene since the late 90s when 9/11 happened. I was pretty awake to what was going on there, and since then, and it's because of knowing this background information that I was able finally to wake up from Watchtower and get out, especially during the COVID situation. I kind of saw right through them at that point. But I was thinking about, their predictions from like 1914, 1925, the resurrection of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, 1975, 6,000 years. But yet when you look at what historians and scholars say, they all say 586. was when Jerusalem was destroyed, and yet they insist on 607, which makes me think that that was all by design, that was all intentional. And it's almost like, you know, the boy that cried wolf so many times, you're not going to believe when it comes around. And so they start their recruitment process with, you know, honest-hearted people, God-fearing Christians, convert them over to a religion that isn't Christian to steal their faith and, you know, the hope of going to heavenly life with Christ. So they replace that. But yet, for those that fall away, they've broken their faith with, you know, losing faith in God, not wanting to go back to God. But meanwhile, they're still working on more recruits, so the money keeps coming in. So I want to get your opinion on that. Do you think that's a valid conclusion?
Are you with us, Fritz? Well, for some reason, Fritz seemed to disappear on us, but we'll get Fritz back with us. Fritz, are you on there with us? Boy, I don't know what happened to Fritz. So we'll see. He'll call back in. We'll see what happens. But isn't this a great program? My goodness gracious. We have Fritz Springmeier. Are you back with us, Fritz? Well, we're going to back.
Rick, you're going to still use the area code? Area code?
What's that?
Were you going to still use area codes? I was just kind of.
Well, yeah, go ahead, come and with us and talk if you like. We're just waiting to get Fritz back. He seemed to disappear off the radar screen. So maybe he'll call back in. I hope he will. Yeah, so that happens. Sometimes phones go off or whatever. So we'll get Fritz back on with us here shortly. So what were you thinking of, caller?
Oh, yeah. Well, I wanted to ask Fritz. He's into a lot of the rabbit hole, and what he knows about the Jesuits and the Illuminati was my question to him. And I didn't hear everything he covered. I got choppy parts of his earlier. So he might have covered that. I don't know. Do you know, did he mention the Jesuits?
He didn't mention the Jesuits, but we're going to have him back on here. In fact, we're going to try to get him to have his own program here on the 6 screens because he has so much information for us. Are you on there with us?
I can address this question. We're going to try to get him to have his own program here on the 6 screens.
Well, hold on. We got plenty of people, you know, they what they do is they leave the YouTube on and they're calling at the same time. So that's why we get the echoing. But Fritz, are you back on with us? Fritz Springmeier, are you on the telephone line? Well, he seemed to disappear.
No, this is Bob.
Well, yeah, in fact,
are you there?
Well, Bob, what do you have to say?
Hey, Rick, this is RG. This is my first time I've ever called in.
Yeah.
I'm a POMO.
You're a POMO.
Actually.
Yeah.
I'm a POMO. Physically out, mentally out. I put everything together. I have been researching the witnesses for since COVID-19 started. I have been shunned for 10 years. And so that's why I started to research everything. And I just took one thing at a time. And I have got to tell you, the research that I've done, it's unbelievable. I've looked.
Hold on one second, folks. What we're going to do here is we're going to, telephone line goes off 6 hours after we start. So we're going to come right back in again. So just stay with us and we'll get you right back on. I hate it when this happens, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on. If you're on YouTube, Facebook, just listen in. And we have got the program will start once we get the telephone line back up.
We thank you for joining in.
Yeah, the telephone line goes off every 6 hours. So we're now rechanging it. We got the 6 screens conference call line coming up right now. Yeah. So stay with us. We'll be right back with you.
Background. We hope you enjoy the program.
Just stay with us. We'll be right back on.
Placed into the conference.
If you are the host, press please enter. Thank you. There are.
Okay, we're going to get him right back on. So stay with us.
The recording recording has started.
All right.
And I had to get away from the New World.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
I want to give you my number. Will you take my number and call me?
You bet I will. Hold on.
Yep.
Just for a second here.
Yeah, give me a second, Rick. I want to give him my number so he can call me.
I had a pen here. I got to go in the back and get a pen. Hold on, Mike.
Okay.
I would love to talk to you, Mike.
Muted.
Yeah.
Unmuted.
Hey, for hours, and I will talk for hours. We'll talk for hours.
I gotta tell you, Mike, that oh my goodness, it's refreshing to talk to someone. They've shunned me for 10 years.
Me too, brother. Me too. I lost everybody. I mean everybody.
Me too.
Everybody.
I have no family inside. My wife passed away, and I got remarried. And this witness girl tried to take my house away.
Oh yeah.
Tried to take my bank account away.
You know
tried
why?
taking everything away. Why?
You know what? Because witnesses are the most demonized. Now, I'm not saying possessed. What being demonized is different from being possessed. Witnesses are the most demonized people on earth.
I agree with you.
Yes, they are.
I agree with you.
For a fact. And I'll tell you. Yeah, I'll tell you everything I know when we talk.
Oh, that was great. What's your number, Mike?
Yeah, it's 737.
737.
Yep, 742.
742.
0325.
Let me read it back to you, Mike. It's 737 742 0325.
Yes, sir. And for anybody else who heard it, I'm Archangel Michael. Deal with it. I don't care if you believe it or not. I am. I don't care. Call me anytime you want, day or night. I sleep about 3 hours a day, and you can call me anytime.
Let me give you my phone number. 916.
Okay.
276.
Okay.
5711.
Got it. And your first name one more time is?
My name is Bob, and you know, I didn't want to, because I still have, I had a witness come by about a month ago, and he tried to get me to come back, and I said, you know something? I said, I'm not coming back. I said, well, I've been shunned for 12 years.
Yep.
And this dictatorial attitude from the congregation, I said, I don't need it and I don't want it anymore.
No. And what did Messiah say over and over and over and over again? How you treat the least one of these is how you treat me.
Yes, sir.
If you're an angel.
Yes, sir. I got to tell you, Mike.
An angel.
Yes, I'm an angel. It's not an angel. I'm a messenger, an arc messenger.
Yes, sir.
We're the lowest rank.
Well, I got to tell you, Mike, once I left and I became a POMO, I got to tell you that I had to fight. I had to fight for Jesus Christ, because
yes,
most people that leave, they want to become agnostic, or you know, they want to completely walk away. But I know that Jesus Christ, I know he's there. I know he exists. And I had to fight to get my spirituality back. And let me tell you something. It was hard. It was hard, but I fought and I fought and I fought. I kept reading the Bible. I kept reading the Bible. And finally, I started praying. I started praying more. And finally, it started to come back. And I'm so happy that Jesus Christ wanted me.
Yes, he does. He loves you more than you can possibly imagine, brother. And I'm going to say amen and hallelujah to that. That's beautiful.
You make me feel so good.
Hey, Bob, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Bob?
Yes, sir.
Me too. Born and raised all my life, have friends. And what's interesting, since 2010, I was telling every elder, every brother, anybody who listened, that the United Nations was going against a virus. I can't say the word, but a virus. I didn't know the name of it and when it was going to happen because I had done tons of research when I was younger, and they all laughed at me. And soon enough, when I finally woke up and realized, because I saw where the Jehovah's Witnesses were going, and it was in the first video update, the broadcast video from Anthony the Jerkoff Morris, and I
love it. I love it.
Going and they are popular. And so and I'm glad I prayed to Yeshua HaMashiach. The Ruach HaKodesh fell on me, the Holy Spirit, and boy, I've learned so much now.
Amen. Oh, this man that's talking is exactly right because he's using the right names. Those are the right names. Amen, bro.
I got to tell you, I've learned so much. I've learned so much more since I've been away from the witnesses.
When I sat down with the body.
Yeah.
And they were afraid. They were afraid of what I was saying. Because I had evidence. I had scriptural evidence. I was showing them own New World Translation. The Strong's Concordance.
Okay, we're gonna step in right here, right now. We've got more people who want to call in. I want to see if Fritz is back with us. Fritz, are you back on with us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Fritz, you're back on with us. I don't know what happened. You got kind of cut off there. I'm not sure what happened, but friends, I want to thank you guys for kind of filling in and talking. We appreciate that. We got Fritz back on with us, so we're going to go back to what Fritz was talking about. Fritz, we've got probably 15 minutes left. Can you hang in with us?
Yeah, I can.
All right.
I'm going to put you're coming in very faint, so I'm going to put
Okay, we have more questions for you, Fritz. So go ahead, sister, give a question for Fritz.
Okay, I'm in Arizona, and I want to thank you first for writing that book on the 13 Bloodlines. And I actually found out about that book in 2020, which confirmed some things that I was thinking, because I was raised in a religion, and I came across your book as a result of someone posting something about Charles Taze Russell on Facebook, and I kind of brushed it off when they said he was part of the Skull and Bones, and I said, well, they don't know what they're talking about. But then I decided to look it up because they referred to him being in a 13 bloodline family. So my first question, because I found it on CIA's website, is how in the world did your PDF book end up on the CIA's website?
Well, they simply pirated it. The official story that's out there is that when the Navy SEAL team went in to assassinate Osama bin Laden, he had my Bloodlines of the Illuminati book in his library. And at that point, the CIA pirated my book and put it up on their website for free. And I guess if you're the CIA, you don't have to worry about copyrights.
They do whatever they want.
Because I was wondering, how in the world did this end up on the CIA's website? So anyway, I have been telling a lot of my friends and family about your book. I've been passing it along. It is really deep. Now, my second question is, are you going to write a sequel to the 13 Bloodlines?
Well, I have written the beginnings of about 5 more books, but the thing of it is I have a family. I have a beautiful family, and I prioritize them. And writing books is an extremely time-consuming thing, and I've got enough information out there that people got the picture. You see what I mean? You know, like Charles Taze Russell. I may not have the last fact out there about him. You know, sure, if I researched him for another 10 years, I might get some more facts. But why? Enough is there. If you're going to believe it, you're going to believe it. You know, in my Bloodlines of the Illuminati book, I give hundreds of names of Illuminati members. I don't have to give every last one. You know, people can get the picture. So it's probably not going to happen that these other books that are on the drawing boards will ever get taken off the drawing boards.
Okay, well, I want to thank you for the writing the book, because it did help wake me up during the process.
Great.
It was a real eye opener, and like I said, it was very deep, and it is really good information in there.
Amen.
I had tried to contact you through your website when I found out about your book, and I had emailed you, and your email came back undeliverable to me. I mean, I'm not going to bug you, but I just wanted to thank you.
Thank you very much
for writing the book, and I wish that I could, open up my family that are still in the religion, open up their eyes, but I don't think it's going to happen. So,
well, it may happen with the events of the next few years, because things are going to be shaken.
Okay, well, we will see, and hope to see you again on 6 Screens.
Thanks.
I wouldn't mind having you on a Zoom meeting. So that would be, I would think it would be a good meeting, if it could happen. But I am just thankful that you wrote the book, and that's all I wanted to say. So you have a good weekend. Thank you for your time. And I also saw you on Donut's YouTube channel as well, because I watched Donut too. Okay.
Right.
All right.
About the CIA. Fritz?
Yeah, what about the CIA? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, and thank you. I've finally been patient here. But I'll try to make this as quick as possible. So you're familiar with MK Ultra operations, right?
I was the one that really exposed it. I wrote 3 big, powerful books.
So then it comes as no surprise to you that there's a lot of connection between people who have been exposed to that, who later become shooters in a country that wants to get rid of guns, correct? I mean, all these schools, So here's an interesting question. I happen to cross a guy who does research on gematria and the Jesuit order.
Yeah.
Is anything wrong with that? Okay. So this guy did some research after the Hamburg shooting. He connected the term Kingdom Hall and Pope having the same numbers. And the date of the shooting was connected to separation numbers that add up to murder relative, and this is how it works. They are doing, the Jesuit order does rituals regularly, almost daily. These murders, events, everything, and they code them with numbers in the news reports. And it amounts to, So the Kingdom Hall shooting in Hamburg has a lot of it. And the fact that this guy was kind of nutty, he could easily be manipulated by CIA operatives and get coded and go ahead and carry out that mission. Because people say, well, he was nuts, he was crazy, he was ruthless. Of course he's all that, but he was a lost soul. And if you get MK Ultra, you'd be amazed what you'll do. So
they do find the number.
I know this is wild speculation at some level, and I know
you're right.
Yeah, but it is. It's very. In other words, that event in Hamburg, friends, is very, very likely an Illuminati Jesuit operation.
It is 100%. You are correct, sir.
Anyway, Fritz, for what that's worth, I know you know those things are going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had the privilege of exposing it.
Yeah, and many of the things about what you have to say and others like you, it works like this. It's kind of like if somebody just came off, I can't wake my family up in the religion. Well, there is so much tangled web of darkness to it that if you start in on revealing just a part of it, their brains shut down. I went to, there was a memorial for a friend about a week ago, and I got in on Zoom as a witness person, and I'm basically a faded person. I don't know what they think of me. A lot of people are hearing things, whatever, but I just popped in for the memorial. And so afterward, I saw, this is my old congregation many hundreds of miles away, and but the people on the Zoom had moved away from there, and I just hung out afterward. I didn't have a camera, and I was listening to him talk. And when you know what's going on, they're in such a bubble. It's amazing. And it's once you analyze it, reverse engineer the mind control, you can understand how the fear element is walled them in. They're like corralled in the mind.
That's correct.
It's amazing.
100% correct.
So anyway, I appreciate getting a chance to talk to you, sir, and your book is good. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Fred?
Yes, go ahead. You're on with Fritz. Go ahead. Say hello to him.
Hello, Rick. This is Deborah.
Hi, Deborah.
Hi, Fritz. I've been following you for a while, off and on. The last time I heard from you was with the interview, I believe it was with Jana Danoon, Stephen Danoon. Jana did a full interview. You remember her, right? She's an
that was about 5 years ago.
Yes, okay, you nailed it. I couldn't remember it was 5, 8, or 10 years ago, but that was a wonderful. I had been following you before then, but that intrigued me to listen more. And when I saw that she was doing an interview with you, I followed the whole thing. But I have so many questions, and I don't even know where to begin with this. My dad, I'm a second generation JW, and I am the youngest of 8 children. And my dad was a Freemason as well as being a JW. And I remember him, and I must have been about 13, maybe 14 years old, him being a Freemason. And the elders came to the house, and they had questioned him about his baptism because he was baptized as Catholic years and years before. He was born in 1910, and he had been a JW since the 1940s. And he told them, right point blank, I remember standing in the kitchen when they asked him, well, you need to get baptized. And he said, no, I was baptized once, and that's good. That's all I need. And it wasn't shortly thereafter, I think it was the early 70s, maybe late 60s, early 70s, where they knew he was a Freemason. They knew it. I'm pretty sure he was pretty high up. Now, like I said, I was a teenager, and an early teenager, 12, 13 years old. And he had the lamb skin, because I remember going in the box as a young kid after he had forbid us to go in that box to find out what was in there. He had the lamb skin. He had the white apron. There were a couple of candles, and he had a ring. And every week he would come home with a different colored carnation in his pocket, on his pocket suit jacket. So when I think they already knew that he was a Freemason, but then at that time, late 60s, early 70s, they wanted, and there were other men in the Kingdom Hall who were also Freemasons, because I remember my dad giving these other JW men that special handshake. There was a special handshake that they gave them. And I asked my dad about it. He says, oh, don't you pay no attention to that. That's nothing. But that box with all that stuff in there, and he didn't know I went in there and I looked and I saw it. You know, I know that there's some affiliation between JWs and Freemasonry. I know there is. And then early in the 70s, they came to him and they told him that he could no longer be a Freemason if he wanted to serve as a Jehovah's Witness. So shortly after that, within a year after he had resigned from Freemasonry, we started having the Tuesday night Bible book study in our house.
Mm-hmm.
So we had that for about a year. But my goodness, this has just brought back a flood of memories. Watchtower, Russell. I remember my dad having all the books from all the way back to Russell and the disc and flying the wings.
Mm-hmm.
And I would ask questions about it. He'd say, well, you don't need to know about all that stuff. And it's just a flood of memories coming back. I'm 67 years old. I'm going to be 68. So, I mean, all this is just like conjuring up all these memories that I've had throughout all these years. And it's scary. It's scary. But the only reason why they didn't want him to have people acknowledge that he was a Freemason was because they were involved in changing the system at that time in the late 60s, early 70s. Now,
well, you'll see governing body members wearing jewelry, including Masonic rings.
Exactly. But do you remember? Now, I specifically remember this about the New World Order, their Bible, New World Order translation. Now, they stopped using that term. Do you remember when they stopped using that New World Order phrase? I do, specifically. It's when Bush came out on public TV and talked about the New World Order.
Yes.
After that they stopped using that term. They never used it ever since then.
Oh, really? Archangel Michael. Yes, you are correct, 100%.
They stopped you. If you notice today, they will never talk about the New World Order. Since then, there's another thing. Corporate welfare. Yeah, the news affiliation. They're all corporate welfare. I have all these things written down here, things that I was going to talk about, and it's like, you know, you are so right on. And as far as Jimmy Bell, oh my God, even before he came on and before Rick had mentioned him, I was going to say, you and Jimmy Bell need to do a program, just the two of you, and, you know, blow this whole thing wide open, because Jimmy Bell is, you know a whole lot more than what he does, and he's, like he said, since 2020, I mean, he's been doing his research and everything, and he's brought a lot of stuff out. But between the two of you, I mean, my goodness, you could blow this whole thing wide open like a smoke screen. The New World Order, the CBDC, I mean, my hat goes off to you. What you probably have had to go through for the past 30 years, or, you know, probably 20 years, 25 years, I don't know. But I've been following you since just before that interview with Jana Danoon. And, you know, I have to commend you. Thank you so much, because you need to wake up more people. It's not done yet, Fritz. It's not done yet.
Thank you.
It needs to be done with. Thank you very much.
She is correct. Good job, sister. Good job.
Well, I want to share a scripture at this point.
I hope my questions in the future can get answered for me about the little things that I do remember. What do the carnations represent? What does the lambskin? I mean, I remember unrolling that.
Can I interrupt you? If you look at the Washington Monument, it's a phallus, right? It comes from Egypt. It's a hard-on. And so God of Freemasonry is between their two legs, and they protect their God with the lambskin. Like we're saved by the lamb, their God is saved by the lambskin. It's a sexual cult, and as you go up through Freemasonry,
so there's incest in that. There's a lot of incest as well.
Yeah. So if you look, you have to understand how the occult world works with esoteric and exoteric symbols. So they have a G in the square and compass. Well, when you first get started, they tell you the G stands for God. Then as you go up, they give you new light. The G stands for gnosis, which means knowledge. But as you go higher, it stands for the generative principle, which means buggering little boys and stuff. It gets pretty nasty.
Oh my God. These things have been so repressed in my memory. And it's like, even though I had been watching you on videos from way back when, I can't even say how long. I've been out of Watchtower since I was 35. But the indoctrination that goes on, now, like I said, I was born in. And it's taken me so many years to get through even the minutest thing, smallest thing. And a lot of it, most of it, I would say all of it, is induced by Watchtower. Not so much my father, but you have the both. But you fear what they have put in, and people need to get out of that cult. And whatever. Here's another thing, just one thing, and I'll let you go. Why do they never talk about the two witnesses, and why do they never talk about, well, why don't they ever use the phrase New World Order anymore? Those are the two things that need to come out, because those two things, I believe, they never talk about the two witnesses.
They never talk about the Antichrist either. It's because they're an Illuminati front. They're an Illuminati front.
Yeah.
People need to wake up.
They're part of the Antichrist.
They are a form of the Antichrist. They are the spirit of the Antichrist.
If you look at the scriptural definition of Antichrist, and if you deny Christ, you're an Antichrist. So, they fit the definition.
In actuality, it's not anti, it's anti, A-N-T-E. Antichrist. It's not even against being of. So
Antichrist means instead of. Anti means instead of.
Right, but you have to. That's like, all right. Well, I won't even get into that, but a whole another definition of the against Christ. They are pretending to be. Do you see what I'm saying? The A-N-T-E.
Yeah, that's what we're saying.
Yes. Anti means instead of. It means instead of. They are the Antichrist.
Yeah.
Yes.
But no,
hey, Fritz?
Just. I just hope pretty soon that you and people can get together. Anyway, have a good night, and it was great hearing from you.
Thank you.
Hey, Fritz?
Yes.
I learned a while back that when you go to the memorial and you bypass the bread and the wine, actually you are committing you're part of the Antichrist because you're denying Christ.
You're not participating.
And that is correct. You are
Yes,
correct,
you're not
sir, 100%.
You're not participating in it, and I didn't know that. And when I found out, my jaw dropped open, and I'm going, "Oh my goodness!" We were actually.
That's why they're so dangerous. Is they steal Christ from people. They steal the Bible from people. They steal Christ from people. Everything that God handed us to give us life, they steal from the people. All in the name of helping people, and people don't realize what they've lost.
They can't say something. Very true.
Hey, Fritz?
Fritz.
Yes.
May I ask a question?
Fritz, you were going to read a scripture. I was interested in the scripture you were going to read.
Oh, well, she was talking about a couple of the callers have talked about what I've gone through, and I wanted to point out to them Romans 8:28. All things work together for good to those who love God and are called according to his purpose. You know, what the enemy has meant for bad, the Lord has turned for good. So, you know, I have been blessed. God has preserved me. There's been attempts on my life. God preserved me miraculously. And, you know, what the enemy meant for evil, God's turned for good. So just be aware of that and be encouraged, okay?
Hey, thanks a lot, Fritz. I appreciate that. And, you know, you talk about you got to get the word out to wake people up. You know, like I told you before, I've read your book a long time ago. And as I became a Christian and had the opportunity to speak in different churches, even ministers asked me to quit talking about this subject. So I know I know that you went through it. I've read all about what you went through. But even a layman like me who tried to put out about this, we fight. My own family thinks I'm crazy sometimes. So, you know, it's a tough road.
Yeah, most churches today, because the Jehovah's Witnesses call themselves Christians, that's good enough for them. They don't want to hear anything negative.
Right. They're not Christian.
Christendom is, you could flush it down the toilet.
Yeah.
In my Be Wise as Serpents book goes denomination by denomination and exposes how lots of their ministers have been or are Freemasons. And so it's not just the Jehovah's Witnesses, you know, and that's what I was telling Rick is, you know, I investigated the Jehovah's Witnesses and spent thousands of hours investigating them, but I've done the same for a lot of other organizations, and there's a lot of dirt to sling every which direction.
Yeah.
Yes.
May I ask a question?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
About your research there.
Yes.
My name is Stephanie Carson. It's a pleasure to speak with you. We came across your work actually on the CIA website, and that's where we first started opening our eyes to the world. So thank you very much for your hard work and dedication.
I guess I should thank the CIA.
Yes, exactly. They did something right. So you say that the Jehovah's Witnesses are at the head, at the top of New World Order. Can you explain to us exactly what that means?
No, the Jehovah's Witnesses are not at the head. They're just one front of many fronts. And that's what I was getting at the beginning of this conversation. Was I talked about another front, which is the Mormons, and they have a totally different purpose. I don't know if the listeners know that one of the primary duty of Mormons is to do genealogy work and to go back. And so they have done, they've gone back and tied in everybody so that it's now computerized. The world order knows everybody in their past. That's their primary work as a Mormon, is to do genealogy work.
And then they baptize. Bloodlines are so important.
Well,
to them. them?
It's because they've been told by their hierarchy to do this. They are to baptize all of their dead descendants or ancestors.
Right, right. Yeah, I'm familiar
And the Mormons also provide the Illuminati temples, because the Mormon temples are secretly used by the Illuminati. And
I believe underneath Watchtower headquarters are also used. See, as a child, when we first became Jehovah's Witnesses, and maybe you can shed some light onto this, why would I have gone to Deer Island as a child?
Really? You went to Deer Island?
Yes,
oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Well,
can she elaborate? Fritz, hold on 1 second. I mean, Deer Island is connecting with you, but what's the significance of that? Can we get some insight on that?
Well, the Order of Skull and Bones, which I mentioned in this interview, which is actually a branch of the Illuminati, and they do a ritual that, like, their first ritual, one of their first rituals that they do, they lay in manure and naked and recount all their sexual exploits. It's kind of a nasty organization, and their headquarters is on Deer Island. So that's all that Deer Island has is Order of Skull and Bones. Definitely not something that a child should be going to.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of memory surrounding that. I mean, I know I was abused many years within the Watchtower organization. They would hold me down, drug me, and then rape me it was a long period of time, well over 10-year span. There's videotaping involved.
I've heard many people say similar things, and maybe the Watchtower Society will go down for doing all this stuff for years. I mean, they've certainly hit it, and they've certainly protected the abusers, the pedophiles within themselves.
There's an investigation going on right now in Pennsylvania. I don't know if you're aware of that.
No, I'm not.
With the Attorney General. Yeah, it's been, they've made a few arrests so far.
Well, it's, again, I hate to be cynical, but you have the fox guarding the chicken coop, These attorney generals are not clean, and I could go on and on. I'm just saying that.
Right.
That's just a surface statement, The police anymore,
I've my own,
Yeah. So
go ahead.
I watch and see, and if something does happen, fine. I provided information on a ritual site where people were being killed and abused and blah blah, and it was the police that covered it up. So anyway.
Wow. I know one ex-Jehovah's Witness girl who witnessed one of these child murders, and my brother, who's an elder, is the one that disfellowshipped her for lying. Yeah, it's a bad situation. Okay, well, thank you for answering some of my questions. I definitely have been trying to figure out how they were at the top, and I've gone down a lot of different rabbit holes, down the LDS and a lot of different rabbit holes. Thank you for helping me on my journey.
They're not at the top. They're just one of many organizations that the Illuminati use as a front. And
we kind of came in late in the conversation. Someone texted us and told us to chime in. So I apologize if I'm making you repeat yourself.
No, you're fine.
Thank you. Thank you for your work.
Hey, Fritz.
Yes.
Has anybody put together the New World Order and the New World Translation? They go hand in hand.
Well, there's word. I don't know how to answer that statement. In the Douglas, okay, so the Jehovah's Witnesses were trying to get their religion officially sanctioned in Scotland. And this was in 1954 that they had the Douglas Walsh trial. And so under oath, the leaders of the Watchtower Society explained how they supposedly came up with the New World Translation. They sat around a table, like these governing body members, and they went verse by verse and decided what they wanted it to say. It had nothing to do with them being Greek or Hebrew scholars. A real translation is where you take a word like kadosh, which means holy, and you take that word and you translate it into English as holy, like if you're translating into German, heilig, but that's not what they did. They didn't do translating. They just sat around with different Bible versions like Johannes Graber's Spirit-inspired translation, which again is not a translation. They sat around with these different Bibles and they went verse to verse, and they came off the top of their heads what they wanted those verses to say. So it's not even a translation.
100% Schofield Bible.
What, was there a question there or a statement? I didn't.
Oh no,
it's
just a statement. I said that's like Schofield's Bible.
Well, I don't know. I can't say that Schofield's Bible's like that because it's based on actual translating. But they do have a lot of notes in the Schofield Bible.
Okay.
If you're talking about the notes, yeah, but it's a translation.
Gotcha.
I had a Schofield Bible at one time, and it was a King James. And there was a committee that actually were scholars, Hebrew and Greek scholars, that went through and translated things. And that's why the King James, in some places, because these were scholars, actually is beautiful. But they were translating. They weren't just making up off of the top of their head what they wanted the verse to say.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Watchtower.
Hey, Fritz, this is Rick. This is Rick at the Six Screens control panel. Fritz, are you getting tired? I mean, you've been on now for like 2.5 hours. Can you go a little bit more, or should we kind of?
I can go more.
Hello. One more.
Well, let's go a little bit more, and I don't want to tie you out, but we'll get you back on again. I think you should have your own program here on the Six Screens. I mean, we got so many people. I can't believe it. We've got so many people wanting to talk to you. So let's go a little bit more. I don't want to tire you out. My goodness, you're quite the guy.
No, I'm fine.
Okay, so let's. So what are you gonna have to go ahead? Ask Chris. Go ahead. You're on with us, sister.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Is this Fritz?
Yes.
This is Kathleen, Rick. How are you? I'm so happy to finally. I've been waiting for someone like you to come on. I've gone down the rabbit hole so deep that to hear just a little bit of what you said, I really wanted to ask a very important question. And it pertains to my ex who I'm not with anymore. He's still an elder. I wanted to ask the question of why he showed my children at a very young age of a handshake, a very different handshake, and she recalls it and told me about it. And I've been wanting to know if there's some significance to that.
He showed your children a handshake?
Right. So when they went to the Kingdom Hall, how they were supposed to shake hands.
Okay, well that's probably not related to Freemasonry. It's probably related to trauma-based mind control. Because when you're under trauma-based mind control, there's certain ways that you're to shake hands with certain people.
Yeah.
So that does not sound good. I hate to think that the children were subjected to what's called MKO or trauma-based mind control.
my youngest went through a lot. That's why when I heard you, I just decided to call tonight. A lot of times I just listen, but I'm shaking right now. Just hearing you talk because you talked about so many things that we just talked about, and the fact that my aunt sees and
Hey, sister, can you come a little closer to your phone? We're having a little difficulty hearing you. Come a little closer to your...
I know, I hear some static.
Okay, there you go. That's better. Yep.
I'm not going to burden you with a lot, but I just have one more question. He would sometimes say a few things to them, and one thing she recalled was that he was taken to the forest in Germany. And he wouldn't go into detail. He said it was really traumatic. And my daughter says, why did he share stuff? Because we were trying to go back and forth about what we've been finding out, about researching where he is at minute, because we're no longer
Come closer to your phone, sister. We're having a hard time hearing that. I want people to hear this. Come closer to your phone.
Okay, it's my phone. I have a very bad phone.
Okay, well, that's better now. That's better now, yeah.
Okay. That's about all I can add to it, Fritz, but it's just, I have to hear you another time. I hope you have a website, because I was really in your book. I certainly want to hear.
In the last 6 months, they've taken my website down twice, so I don't have one.
I believe it. You have email? We surely want to talk, because there's so many questions we have, and I just, been waiting for someone like you to come along and just spill it, because when I did some research about the Watchtower and Russell and Third and channeling, I went way down.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to hear what you're saying, because it's all true and it's real.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I'm
sad to say it is true.
Yeah. Well, you know how
Fritz.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I thought you were finished, sister. I didn't know. I wanted to ask him about the Bohemian Grove. Have you covered that tonight?
No, I didn't. I've been focused on the Watchtower Society, and the Bohemian Grove doesn't overlap with the Watchtower Society.
Okay. I heard you talk about Deer Lake and everything. I thought you might.
Oh, only because this lady who was a Jehovah's Witness as a girl was taken there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. Also, just a side question, because controlled opposition, I always think of that at times. And a lot of people in the United States put their trust in Donald Trump. Do you think that he is possibly controlled opposition?
No.
Or you don't? He's not?
Who was saying no? Was that Rick or who?
Yeah, no, this is Michael Archangel. No.
Oh, well, let someone else talk, Michael.
Yes.
You're asking about Trump. Well, that's a big story, and it's really not part of the subject of the Watchtower Society, but I'll say this. There was a faction that of the elite that is not following the Illuminati agenda, and the front man for that faction is Donald Trump. So some of the things he's done are in line with the agenda, but a lot of the things that he did were not in line with the agenda, which, really irritated the mainstream Illuminati. But he's not lily white. But then I've always told people, you're not going to get anybody as president who's lily white. So, I'd rather have Trump than Biden, but there's definitely definitely a dark side to Trump, but and I'm trying to just be honest with the facts. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, and DeSantis is the same way. He's in Skull and Bones and everything himself, and he wasn't part of the. His agenda didn't go along with the Illuminati as far as the vaccine.
Right.
So they kind of turned against them too in that way. And then that's what got me thinking of Trump is, could that be possible controlled opposition? You know, and I used to say this about Rick, but at one time I might have thought Rick was a plant for controlled opposition for the Jehovah's Witnesses. So sorry, Rick. I hope you don't mind me saying that. I know you're not.
If he's controlled opposition, he's not doing a good job.
No, he's not. Okay. Well, no more questions from me. Nice to talk to you. I'm a big fan of yours, Fritz. You haven't been able to tell by now. Okay.
Hi, Fritz.
Yes.
I've been listening in all evening. I've really enjoyed your commentary. Going along with these thoughts about the Masons, I was raised a witness. And when I was, for quite a few years, our assemblies were actually held in the Masonic temple.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So I never could figure out. I would sit there looking around and going, why are we having our assembly in someone else's temple?
Right. Well, see, thank you for bringing that up. You see, if you understand spiritual things and spirits and everything, and you think what's going on in these Masonic halls and Masonic temples, I mean, the Masonic temple there in Portland where I used to live, they sold it because Masonry is dying away just like the Watchtower Society. And so they sold off their big temple. And the people that bought it found tunnels with dead skeletons. So, man, I'm getting an echo. It's becoming almost impossible to talk, to hear myself echoing.
It's not me. I have everything turned off.
Okay. Yeah, that kind of short-circuited my train of thought there.
Yeah, hard.
What were we even talking about?
You're talking about Masonic temples, and you said the Masons are fading out along with witnesses and the rituals that they, and the spiritism.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you understand spiritual warfare and spirits and demons, why would you want to go into a place that dark and have your church service or your Kingdom Hall service? That just shows that the witnesses are clueless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and years later, we would go to a war memorial, and my son would ask me, "Mom, why are we having our assembly in a place that honors war?" And I couldn't really answer him either.
Yeah, there aren't good answers. And so some of the break-off groups that broke off from the International Bible Students, and by the way, England still has the International Bible Student Corporation, but some of these groups broke off and they call themselves Bible students. They still continue to meet in the Masonic lodges, just like the original Bible students back in Russell's day did.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You know, Fritz, the Stanley Theater that the witnesses bought, that was Freemason.
Yeah.
That was a Freemason theater. And the guy that bought the Watchtower in New York, those buildings, was Freemason.
Oh, you mean the ones they sold down in Columbia Heights in Brooklyn?
Yep. It was a Freemason who bought it.
Well, he's getting a lot of money.
They're all connected. They're all doing business together.
Oh yeah.
And they don't bring that out, but if you do the research, you can see that, and even that Stanley Theater, they were so proud of that, but there's still Freemasons emblems inside that theater.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. People don't know that, but it's all interconnected.
It wasn't Jared Kushner. I mean, he's questionable too, but it wasn't Jared Kushner who bought all the buildings in New York.
I think it was Kushner. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yep, and he's a Freemason.
Yeah.
And so it's all, isn't that funny? It's all interconnected.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the B'nai B'rith is overlaps with the OTO and the Illuminati, and B'nai B'rith financed Russell. Okay, well let's get some more people in.
Yeah, what I'm going to do right now. This is Rick at the control panel here, Fritz. I just want to say, Aposta Babe, you'll be coming on about 15 minutes if you're listening in. Your program will be coming up in 15 minutes. We're going to keep Fritz on for a little bit longer, then we're going to give him a rest. He's been going crazy here tonight. My goodness, you've been on for close to 3 hours, Fritz.
Well, I'm amped. I'm glad to be able to have the opportunity to say these things. I did so many thousands of hours of research and wrote 5 books that touch on the Watchtower Society. And I just feel such a privilege to be on your show. I'm so proud of what you've accomplished, Rick, and feel so honored to be on here.
Well, thank you. Now, we're going to get you back on again. We're going to get you back on again. And I thank your wife for letting you do this. And maybe we can get you to have your own program on here. People love you. I'm seeing people coming in like crazy here tonight. So thank you. So let's go back. Who's got some questions for Fritz? Go ahead.
Springmeier.
Go ahead. You're with us.
Hello?
Yes.
Rick, I just wanted to let you know I heard you, so thank you.
Okay.
I'll go now.
Okay.
Hello, Mr. Springmeier.
Yes.
Yes, I have your book, Bloodlines of the Illuminati, and I got it after I woke up from the Watchtower. But one big book that woke me up before I was awakened was this book by William Cooper called Behold a Pale Horse. Are you familiar with that book?
Oh yes, I'm familiar.
Yeah, that was one that really helped me to wake up. And then I just recently bought your book. I haven't got into it yet, but I'm really looking forward to reading it.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Hey, Fritz, what's your latest book?
There haven't been any books for a while. What I started doing in 2011 was writing articles, and I've written over 1,000 articles on Facebook that were for free, and that way people didn't have to spend money. And writing articles, incrementally giving information out was easier for me than writing a book. But they hijacked on May 1st, go figure, the birthday of the Illuminati. On May 1st, they hijacked my Facebook account, and Facebook wouldn't let me open up another one. So
that's gematria.
Yeah, so anyway, I don't have a Facebook account to do that anymore.
Yeah, my question was, did you read Behold the Pale Horse by William Cooper, and what did you think of his research?
Well, yes, I did read his book when it came out, and if I say my reaction, it's going to sound a little haughty or something, but if you read my Be Wise as Serpents book, which came out before his book, you'll see that I was way beyond him. And, so I read his book. I have it in my library, but I wasn't impressed because for me, I didn't learn anything because I already knew all that.
I looked for your Serpents book, and it was out of print.
Well, I'm trying to get some more copies made up.
I have your Serpents book. I'm sorry, and I would agree with you, Mr. Springmeier. Your book was spot on, and then the veil behind the white horse or whatever. It's almost like a what do you call it? It's almost like an addition, or it just builds more credence or credentials to what you wrote in the book. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can also listen to his whole. If you go on Spotify and just look up the Mystery Babylon, there's 40 hours of Bill Cooper. You can listen to him for those who don't want to read or can't read his book. And it gives cover everything and dovetails perfectly to the to your wise as serpents. It gives credence or credentials, I guess. I don't know what the word is.
Yeah, it was an excellent series called Mystery Babylon by William Cooper, and he really talks about the ancient schools. I agree with you, and it's really interesting.
What's interesting too, he in that show he reads verbatim the definition of what the Freemason state, what a lie is, and it's actually verbatim, per word, of what the definition of what Jehovah's Witnesses teach and the inside of the scriptures book. It's the same verbiage.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, let's go to 207. 207, you're on with us. 207, go ahead.
Yeah, Fritz. Yeah, when you did have a Facebook account, I tried contacting you. I was a witness for 22 years. I've been out for about 25 now. I've known from the get-go. So, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So I read your Watchtower, Masons on the Watchtower and the Bloodlines of the Illuminati. Found them very interesting. A lot of assertion, but not a lot of hard proof on a lot of things. I'll just ask you one thing, and you can run this through Rick, and he can get it on to me. My last name is Gray, and in the Bloodlines of the Illuminati, you refer to the satanic Gray family. I take umbrage with that, obviously, but I would like to know if you have any hard proof that the Gray family or any other family is actually in this bloodline of the Illuminati.
Oh, there was a lot of proof. I wouldn't have dug that up. See, you have to understand that just because there are people in a surname that are in generational Satanism, that doesn't mean every Gray is part of that. Okay? Just because you're I have friends that are Collins. Well, one of the families that I write about in the Bloodlines book is the Collins bloodline. But that doesn't mean every Collins is part of generational Satanism.
It would have been good to make that distinction in the book, but if you have some hard proof that any of the Grays are in a bloodline of the Illuminati, I would love to see it.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I couldn't rattle off the proof that you want. But you're more familiar with.
You can send it to Rick. You can send it to Rick, and he'll send it to me.
It's not my style it's not my style to try to spend time debating with everybody. I mean, I've done that and been there, and probably what I would tell you is, you're a Gray, do your own research. I can't do everybody's research for them. Like the guy was asking about the Bohemian Grove, well, there's a Gray that's a member of the Bohemian Grove, so investigate the Bohemian Grove and come back and tell me what that's all about.
Well, and that's kind of what I found in your book, is that you're basically saying, if you do the research, you'll come up with the same conclusions I have. It would be much better to just, tell people what the truth is, what the facts are, what the proof is, rather than telling people to do their own research.
Well, I think I've been giving a lot of proof in this thing. If you don't feel like I've been giving proof, let me tell you something here. There was because this is really focused on the Jehovah's Witnesses. It's not focused on other things. There was a presiding overseer, and he told me that nobody had ever refuted his paper that he wrote that Jesus was Michael the Archangel. It was about 8 pages, and plagiarized Watchtower material and just reshuffled it and called it his own. I literally wrote a book refuting it, right? And then I sat down with him and we went verse by verse how I refuted it. You know, so I had put in a lot of time with people doing that kind of stuff. But you know what? I've been at this for 30 years. Other people can get down in the trenches and do that. I have a family to take care of, to support, and I'm not going to sit here and just cater to everybody that is saying, well, Fritz, you don't have any proof, you know. Well, fine, if you can believe whatever you want. You know, you're a Gray, go research the family.
Oh, I have. I have 8,000 people.
And it doesn't bother you that somebody is a Gray in the Bohemian Grove? Well, that's fine. That's you're fine with it.
I have no idea. You know, again, you make the assertion, but I don't know who this person is.
Sir, you're off base, bro. You're off base. Yeah, I'm sorry, but you're off base. You're kind of attacking Fritz, and I'm just saying you're off base.
I'm just asking for some proof on a few basic things.
Well,
I've been witness for 25 years now, and I have been, you know, in ministry online for all that time. And we'll just take a basic. Russell being a 33rd degree Freemason. I hear that all the time.
I never said he was a 33rd degree Freemason. I said he was a Knight.
No, I didn't say you said it. I said I've heard that. You make the assertion that he was. I have not seen any proof that he was.
Well, you're pretty blind. You know, the guy put the Knights Templar logo on all the watchtowers. He put the Knights Templar logo on his grave. And you're going to tell me that that's meaningless? He's buried in a Masonic cemetery? Well, I think you're blind. I don't think you want to see the truth.
Well, I mean, you could make the same assertion that the Nazis are descended from the Hindus because they used a swastika.
They say it. I've heard that one too.
Yeah.
You know, using a straw man to tear down my research is pretty lame.
That's right. You're putting a red herring. Hello. Sir, you're way off base. You're putting a red herring in a straw man. It's not legitimate. You, Gray, the onus is on you. You go do the research.
No. He made the assertion.
No, sir.
It was a satanic. He made the assertion in the book about the satanic Gray family being in the bloodline of the Illuminati. I'm just asking for some proof. That's all I'm doing.
Well, you're going
Mr. Gray.
Mr.
Gray, this is Pixie, and I wanted to thank Fritz and say how wonderful it was to be able to say hello to him after searching for his books. You're probably, Mr. Gray, you're probably related to the beautiful Lady Jane Grey of the royal family. I'm sorry for your loss. If you research that story, you'll see that you are related to royals, but her end and that of her sons was a sad one.
Yeah.
So that puts you in a very famous family.
Oh, I've traced back through Alfred the Great. So,
there you go. Congratulations.
Yeah. But anyway, I'll let it go with that. Very interesting. And
regarding Tudor England, there's a wonderful book by Jason Louv, a biography of John Dee recently. It's quite good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, on.
Hey, thank you.
Fritz, I had a question and now I've forgotten what it was. It's just such an honor to talk to you. I hope you get back to us with some gematria on upcoming events, and what's your prognosis for the next card to drop in the deck, because there's not too many cards left in that deck. You talked a little about the money.
There's actually a lot of cards left in the deck. Yeah, it's we're not that close to the absolute end, you know. Like Bill Gates said that the political polarization in the United States may bring on a civil war, which will bring everything to an end. well, why is Bill Gates saying we're going to have a civil war? Because these people are working full time to bring it about, So, that's a whole subject in itself, how they're creating it, how they're tearing America apart, and they couldn't take Americans' guns away. So if they can get us to turn our guns on each other, and they've got a whole bunch of agendas, their mega smart cities, their green agenda, blah, blah, The UN has 17 sustainable development goals, and you look at those, and those 17 sustainable development goals have been agreed on by every nation in the United Nations. And they include things like gender equality. What's that? Well, what's been in the news lately? Well, not really in the mainstream news, but, in places like British Columbia and California and New York, they ask the children if they believe that they're the gender that they were born with, and if they don't, like if you're a boy and you say, no, I don't think I'm a boy, well, they will neuter you. They will give you hormones, and they will, without the parents' knowledge and permission, they will castrate the boy. And this parent in British Columbia, his boy was neutered, and he got outraged and complained about it, and they gave him a 4-month prison sentence. So
I didn't hear that side of it. Wow.
Yeah,
I know that they're up in arms in Florida about the classic statue of David by Michelangelo. So they don't want to be prudish there, but as you mentioned, they're being brutal in these other stories. So it's a strange mix of things right now. I guess you know that France has had civil unrest for the last week.
Okay.
And
they've been having a civil unrest.
Could I please speak, sir? I'm asking my question.
Okay.
The footage was tremendous, Fritz. I don't know if you saw the footage on YouTube.
No.
Oh, it was amazing. From a news perspective, it was some amazing footage. But you're popular in France, by the way.
Ma'am, I gotta tell you something. You're in such a bubble. You've never had any troubles or problems in your life, and that's a big red flag. If you haven't had any problems,
you don't know me, sir. You don't know my story at all.
Your tone and attitude is so off base.
My tone and attitude is not any of your business. Have a wonderful evening. I was asking the gentleman a journalistic question.
You're in a bubble. You're in a bubble. You don't want truth. You want everything to conform to what you want. You're off base. I'm telling you the truth.
Your sentence didn't make any sense with grammar, sir. I'm sorry for you. I have compassion for you. You had no grammar.
Oh, you're sick. You're sick.
Yeah, I am.
Michael the Archangel, let's be more pleasant than that. It's not your program. Thank you. What?
I was trying to ask a question.
Your attitude is, you're in a bubble. You're just insulated, and you just have no idea what real troubles are. You got no.
Go ahead, Pixie. We got rid of him. Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Springmeier, again, it's lovely to chat with you. And I thank you for noting what Bill Gates said, because I've been looking for the next trend. And I think you've got me another alley to go down. So thank you. And please come back and give gematria on the next things that are happening for us.
Well, that's not going to happen because I'm not into gematria. That's what the other side does. It's just like when I help victims of trauma-based mind control, I didn't use mind control techniques on them. I used other ways, and so I'm not into using the other side's techniques, even though sometimes gematria can be very productive in coming up with things. I'm not into using occult method. So
Well,
sorry.
there's a lot of it in the Bible. The numbers are in the Bible too. And you mentioned May 1 that they took you down. So I figured you knew the meaning of the word.
That's just because just because something works doesn't mean that it's something that God's authorized. We want to stay under God's protection, under his umbrella of protection, and things that he said we can do, are what we will move forward in, but we're not to use the occult.
But it does seem to work that these events do seem to follow mathematical patterns. Everything is patterns.
Yeah.
Everything
And
is
astrology
patterns and cycles. And cycles. Revelation is full of cycles and patterns as well. And the oceans and all these things have cycles and patterns. So I do tend to look at that. Even with the oceans in Revelation 13, where we've had this algae in Florida. That's a cycle and a pattern too. Just the way my mind works. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you. Come back again.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night.
Well, Mr. Fritz Springmeier, maybe we should cut you loose here tonight. My goodness, I want to thank. I can't believe the people coming in and wanting to talk to you, Fritz. It's amazing to me. The phone is lighting up. The computer screens are lighting up. We want to give you a little break here. My goodness, you've exposed so much. But we're going to get you back again. Can we do that?
Yes, Lord willing. I'm going to have to, not in the real immediate future, because I've got a lot of things going, and but yeah, sounds like a winner.
Yeah, so we'll say in a month or so, I'll give you a call and let you know what's going on. You got it really, I can't believe the amount of people coming through here tonight and listening to your program. It'll be up on YouTube. I'll send you a link. Why don't you write me at jwworldnews@gmail.com. jwworldnews@gmail.com. I'll send you a link to the.
Is it all lowercase?
Yes, it is. Yeah, all lowercase.
Okay.
And jwworldnews@gmail.com. I'll send you a link, and you can listen in to the program. I think you might find that really fascinating. But for Fritz, you really made a big difference here tonight. Many people listening in, I couldn't believe it. I kept saying to my wife, Susan, what is going on tonight? A lot of new people.
He's the best guest you've ever had. He is the best guest you've ever had, bar none.
Well,
thank you, Rick. Thank you, Fritz.
Well, thank you very much. We had at least 10, 12 new people calling in tonight, and thank all those people for doing it. So, Fritz, is there anything like, how can people get a hold of you? That's what they're asking. How can they do that?
My email address is springmeiermessages@hotmail.com, and I'll spell that. Yes?
Okay.
Oh boy.
Yeah, go ahead. Say it again, Fritz.
Okay, I'm spelling it SPRINGMEIERMESSAGES, springmeiermessages@hotmail.com.
All right. If for some reason you guys didn't get it, write me at jwworldnews@gmail.com. I'll give you the information to get a hold of Fritz. Fritz, we just have a couple other people coming in here late here. Does someone want to say one more thing to Fritz before he leaves us tonight? Go ahead. You're on with us. Give you a chance. All right.
Hello?
Go ahead.
I just want to say thank you so much.
I
don't know if you. So much.
Go ahead.
Hi, Rick. Hi, it's Gail. Am I on?
You're on. Yep.
Okay, I have a question for Fritz. And Fritz, hi. It's great to hear you. I knew about you from Christy Ann did 4 videos on demonism within the Watchtower organization, and she referenced you, so I looked you up and found the 2 books that you wrote. I have 2 quick comments, if that's okay. My first one is, have you seen the documentary, and it has a lot to do with mind control? It's called State of Mind, The Psychology of Control. It's an unbelievable documentary, and it has a lot to do with fear-mongering and control. And they did a whole thing on LSD, and then they used that for a lot of experiments in mental hospitals. So that goes in line with the control aspect of the Watchtower organization. And my second question has to do with the environment. I knew about chemtrails years ago, and everybody thought I was crazy and I was a conspiracy theorist. Well, now people are now believing in the chemtrails, and I happened to catch this doctor, and she was speaking at the, she was an author and an environmentalist. She was actually speaking at the law school university in Andover, Massachusetts, and she was talking about the subject of chemtrails. And when she talked about the chemtrails, she said there's actually 49 chemicals in the chemtrails that they're pouring out. It's affecting our wildlife, our water, and they're also using the nanotechnology. You know what nanotechnology is?
Yes.
Okay, well, they're using that so it'll not only breathe it in, it absorbs in our skin. And then she talked about the chemtrails affecting our weather. Well, this is a true story. I went to a gun show at the Shriners, which happened to be in Mason's auditorium. And when we were coming out, there were these jets flying over, and they had the streams going down. So I said to the friend I was with, I goes, you wait and see. Watch the next day. And sure enough, and this is a true story, it was on national TV. There was like a swarm in the water. There was a river down the street where I used to live, and the swarm just brought up the water, and fish were actually in some of the trees on the street I lived on. And this is a true story. It was on national TV. And this happened the very next day after the chemtrails. And he called me up and he goes, Gail, you were so right. I didn't believe you, but now I do. So I just wanted to make those 2 comments and what your thoughts were about chemtrails.
Well, they exist and they're nasty, and the person you quoted is right on track. And yes, they're using nanotechnology, and that people can't. It's just like that earlier gentleman. You know, where's the proof about the Grays, Gray family? You know, I mean, if you just want to open your eyes, you can see this stuff. You know, one day I went out, I live in the country, and there was a grid. I kid you not, there was a grid. There was parallel lines of chemtrails, all from one horizon to the other. And then perpendicular to that was the other. It was a grid. That is not airplanes on flight paths. That's, you know, and it's so obvious, but, you know, try to tell someone.
People don't want to believe it.
No. So, you know, they're going to have to wake up on their own. I can't wake everybody up.
No,
it's not my job to wake everybody up.
Well, I have a friend that works at MIT, and he told me all about the nanotechnology, and he also, you know, he's the one that introduced me to chemtrails, and then I started watching the sky all the time and seeing them. And my sister-in-law said to me, she goes, oh, no, that's just a jet going up in the air. And I'm like, there's 3 of them going up at the same time? No. Anyway.
Yeah, the other day there were 2 airplanes, 2 jets flying at the same altitude. One had a contrail that just disappeared, you know, a few meters after the plane, and the other one had a chemtrail which went all the way across the horizon. You know, they sometimes say, well, they're so far, it's the altitude they're at. Oh no, these 2 planes were at the same altitude and totally different.
I think they do that on purpose to trick the mind. I think they do that on purpose to trick the people who don't believe so they can confuse them.
Well, it's much more than that. I mean, this is horrible, really.
From the research I've done on the chemtrails, I don't know how accurate, sorry, but because you're on the chemtrail question, I don't know if you've come across this research, and I can't remember where I found it, but apparently the idea is that people are trying to recreate the same atmospheric conditions prior to Noah's flood in order to allow the demons to reappear in physical form at some point in the future. I don't know how accurate that was, but
Unbelievable.
I did
I heard
come across that.
Soros and Gates want to control the sunlight too. With the
You're both correct. You're both correct. The gentleman and you are both correct. Both are correct. Yes.
Thank you. I do a lot of research and I watch a lot of stuff, and I don't believe in vaccination. I know I'm not supposed to talk about that because I refuse that because I know it's in it. And there's another documentary. I don't know if you saw this, Fritz, about silent killers, the people that are dying all over the world. It's a documentary.
No.
I don't know if it's Netflix or Hulu. It's frightening.
No, but we're not going to talk about these subjects.
All right,
Okay.
I'll shut up.
Okay, we got. Well, we're gonna cut Fritz loose here. We do have one. We have one more person. Angela, is it? Did you want to come in and say something, Angela? I know you've been popping in here. Angela.
Thank you, Fritz.
I have.
Go ahead, Angela.
Fritz, you're gonna laugh. Fritz, I read your book, but I didn't even. I wasn't putting it together until somebody finally said the bloodlines, and I'm like, oh my God, I read that book, Fritz. So yeah, and I still admire your work and disregard whatever, because you know what? I've done a lot of research, and I'm so happy to know that you're right up there with that stuff. And I thank you so much for coming on. I really do. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Wow, Fritz, you can see you get so many people that love you. My goodness gracious. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't believe it. It was unbelievable tonight. So many people coming in. So listen, you've been on for over 3 hours, and I want to thank you so much for doing that. You're a good man, and you have so much to share. And I'll be in touch with you, and we're going to talk about future things going on. But you just rest. Tell your wife I thank her for letting you come on tonight, because I mean, you took hours out of your life tonight to come on the 6 screens. Thank you. Thank you very much, Fritz.
You're welcome. Thanks, Rick, for this opportunity. And the Lord bless everybody. Talk to you later.
Thank you, Fritz.
Thanks, Fritz.
Thank you, Fritz.
There you go.
God bless you.
Boy, I'll tell you, folks, what an amazing program. I've been doing this program here for 17 years. Something unusual happened tonight. The phones were ringing off the hook. I mean, I couldn't believe the amount of people coming in wanting to talk to Fritz. I mean, one of the biggest calls we've ever had since we've been doing the program. So thank you for coming in. Thank you all for calling in and wanting to speak up to Fritz Springmeier. Wow, what a guy. And we're going to be hearing more from him in the future. So don't you worry. What my goal is, I'm going to try to get Fritz to come on for a regular program. Wouldn't that be good? I mean, he's really sharing so much with us. But thank you all for coming on. Listen, we got a pasta babe. She's coming up next. It's late at night. Pasta babe burns the midnight oil at the 6 screens. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna end this program, and we're gonna go to a pasta babe. But don't you guys leave us. Maybe some of you can't sleep at night, you're night owls. Listen to a pasta babe. She's your favorite apostate. She's coming up next, right here on the 6 screens Tele-Network. So let's just make sure all the sound clips are up. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to a Pasta Babes program, and we're looking forward to that. So just hang in here with us. Let's end this broadcast, but stay with us. We're going to go into the next studio. Linda James, your favorite apostate's coming up next. Thank you very much for coming in here tonight to the 6 screens of the Watchtower conference call. I'll tell you, one of the more successful, thank you very much. I appreciate that. One of the most successful programs we've ever had here on the 6 screens. Thank you for joining in with us tonight. And this broadcast, a Pasta Babe up next. Don't